Have you ever wondered what truly happens in the profound silence that follows our final breath? We spend our entire lives moving, breathing, thinking, and feeling, deeply anchored to a fragile biological vessel that feels so solid, so permanent, yet is so exquisitely temporary. We become entirely accustomed to the rhythmic drumbeat of our own existence, the steady pulsing in our chests, the continuous rise and fall of our lungs, and the endless cascade of bright thoughts that fill our waking hours. We experience the vastness of the world strictly through the narrow lens of biology, convinced by our senses that we are nothing more than blood, bone, and breath. But what if this biological perspective is only a remarkably small fraction of the greater truth? What if the moment we fearfully call the end is not an ending at all, but rather a magnificent, intricate transition from the macroscopic world of cellular biology back into the fundamental, eternal realm of quantum mechanics? The universe is unimaginably ancient, astonishingly vast, and endlessly mysterious, filled with hidden phenomena that challenge our deepest human intuitions. When we look at a falling autumn leaf, a slowly dying star, or a gently closing eye, we perceive a definitive finality. But the cosmos, in its infinite wisdom, does not recognize endings. The cosmos recognizes only transformation, the eternal shifting of energy from one state to another. In the gentle quiet of the night, when the world outside your window is perfectly still, and your mind is allowed to wander to the very edges of the unknown, the thought of that final cessation can feel daunting, heavy with the weight of the unknown. Yet, if we have the courage to look through the precise, illuminating lens of fundamental physics, the story of our final moments is not one of tragic disappearance, but of a profound, beautiful, cosmic homecoming. Before we journey deeper into this remarkable mystery together, I want to gently pause for just a moment. Welcome to our quiet space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion on this meditative journey through the greatest mysteries of the cosmos. I have noticed that 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch our quiet journeys have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find a sense of peace, comfort, and wonder in these explorations of the universe, please take a soft moment to subscribe. It helps our community grow tremendously, and it ensures that we can continue to share these quiet, infinite journeys of discovery together. Thank you for your calming presence. Now, let us return to the deep silence, to the very edge of physical existence, and explore what truly happens in those mysterious first 30 minutes, when the human heart beats for the final time. A profound and heavy quietness begins to wash over the physical form. To the grieving observers standing in the room, it appears as a sudden, heartbreaking stillness, a definitive cessation of the vibrant animation that previously defined a complex human life. The chest no longer rises to greet the air. The pulse fades completely into the surrounding silence. The vibrant, comforting warmth of the living skin begins its slow, inevitable surrender to the ambient temperature of the room. This is the standard biological definition of death, a stark medical reality that humanity has observed, documented, and mourned for hundreds of thousands of years. But biology is merely a macroscopic illusion, a highly complex, temporary arrangement of microscopic phenomena that obey much older, deeper rules. To truly understand what is happening in those critical first 10, 20, or 30 minutes, we must zoom our perspective far inward, looking past the failing organs, past the deteriorating tissues, past the collapsing cells, down into the unimaginably small, tirelessly vibrant world of the quantum realm. At this fundamental level of reality, the human body is not a single, solid object that has simply stopped working like a broken machine. It is a swirling, dynamic galaxy of trillions upon trillions of atoms, each one vibrating with ancient, indestructible cosmic energy. The exact moment of biological cessation is merely a chemical signal, a subtle change in the organizational structure of this immense atomic galaxy. The kinetic energy that powered the beating heart, the electrical energy that flashed brightly through the billions of neural synapses in the brain, the subtle thermal heat generated by continuous cellular respiration, none of this energy simply vanishes into the dark. According to the first law of thermodynamics, a foundational rule of our universe, energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only change its form. In the very first few minutes after biological cessation, a spectacular, invisible redistribution of this stored energy begins. The average human body contains roughly 7 octillion atoms. That is a 7 followed by 27 zeros, a number so incomprehensibly vast that our human minds struggle to visualize it. Each of these atoms is a tiny, ancient artifact, originally forged in the blazing nuclear furnaces of dying stars billions of years ago. The iron flowing in the blood, the calcium hardening the bones, the carbon that forms the intricate scaffolding of every single cell, they are all, quite literally, stardust. For decades, these ancient atoms were tightly bound together by the complex energy of life, forced to cooperate in the highly ordered, fragile system of a living, breathing human being. But as the biological systems begin to power down in those first 30 minutes, the rigid quantum coherence that held them in this specific, localized human configuration begins to softly loosen. The electrons continue to orbit their nuclei at staggering speeds. The subatomic particles continue to dance vibrantly in their shifting probability clouds. The heartbreaking quietness we perceive on the outside entirely masks a furious, beautiful, microscopic transition happening on the inside. Consider the human brain in those first 5 to 10 minutes. The vital supply of oxygen has stopped, and the macroscopic electrical activity, the brain waves that doctors measure on monitors, begins to quiet down and flatten into silence. But the human brain is not merely a wet biological computer. It is a profound, densely packed repository of quantum information. Every single memory you have ever made, every face you have ever loved, every brilliant sunset that has ever taken your breath away. These profound human experiences are intricately encoded in the physical structure and the delicate quantum states of the neurons within your brain. In the strict realm of fundamental physics, there is a deeply respected principle regarding information. Quantum information cannot be fundamentally destroyed. This is a bedrock rule of the universe, just as absolute as the strict conservation of energy. So, we must ask the profound question: what exactly happens to a lifetime of accumulated information stored in the brain when the biological vessel finally shuts down? Some brilliant theoretical physicists and researchers have proposed a fascinating, deeply contemplative theory. They suggest that consciousness itself might not be merely a temporary byproduct of biological computation, but rather a fundamental property of the universe, deeply rooted in the microscopic quantum vibrations of tiny, rigid structures inside our brain cells, called microtubules. When the biological systems irrevocably fail in those initial few minutes, the delicate quantum information previously held within these microtubules does not simply blink out of existence. According to the laws of physics, it simply cannot. Instead, as the rigid biological structure begins to slowly degrade, the quantum coherence that defined that unique, individual human consciousness might begin to gently leak out, slowly dissipating back into the broader, infinite universe. The information is not lost forever. It is simply released and redistributed. Imagine a single drop of perfectly clear, vibrant water suspended precariously on the very tip of a green leaf. While it rests on the leaf, it has a clearly defined shape, a specific, measurable boundary, a distinct individual identity separate from its surroundings. But when it finally falls and merges quietly with the vast ancient ocean, the drop does not cease to exist. Its specific water molecules are still there. Its fundamental essence remains completely intact, but its fragile boundary has dissolved. It has become seamlessly one with the infinite deep. This beautiful metaphor is precisely what quantum physics suggests might be happening in those quiet, sacred minutes after the final heartbeat. The highly structured, isolated drop of quantum information that we temporarily call a human life begins its gentle, inevitable descent back into the vast cosmic ocean from which it originally, mysteriously emerged. As the minutes quietly tick by, perhaps 15 or 20 minutes into this profound and irreversible transition, the physical body undergoes a natural process the medical world calls algor mortis, the gradual, steady cooling of the physical form. From a macroscopic human view, it is a tragic loss of warmth, a fading of the fire of life. But from a strict quantum perspective, it is a beautiful, entirely invisible exchange of energy with the surrounding universe. The countless molecules within the body, which had been vibrating vigorously to maintain an average temperature of 98.6 degrees, begin to transfer their accumulated kinetic energy to the cooler air molecules floating in the room. It is a microscopic dance of countless invisible collisions. A rapidly vibrating carbon atom located in the surface of the skin bumps gently into an oxygen molecule drifting in the air, transferring a tiny, measurable parcel of heat energy. This microscopic process ripples outward in an expanding, invisible wave of heat leaving the body and spreading out into the wider cosmos. In your final physical act of existence, your body is literally warming the universe. The precise energy that once animated your joyful smiles, your sorrowful tears, and your passionate movements is not entirely gone. It is simply traveling outward, embarking on a new, endless journey through the dark. This is the gentle, unavoidable inevitability of cosmic entropy, the fundamental tendency of the entire universe to move inevitably from states of high order to states of high disorder and perfect equilibrium. Biological life is a temporary, magnificent, localized rebellion against this entropy. We spend our entire lives constantly gathering energy, organizing it, and carefully maintaining a complex internal environment against the chaotic, degrading forces of the outside world. When the heart finally stops its rhythm, the rebellion ends, and the universe gently, patiently reclaims its borrowed materials. But there is absolutely no malice in this natural process, no profound tragedy in the cold, clear eyes of physics. It is simply a return to cosmic balance. It is a deep, eternal sigh of relief from the universe. The atoms are officially released from their strict biological duties and are entirely free to begin their next ancient journey. Some of those atoms will eventually find their way into the dark soil, providing vital nourishment for a newly growing blade of green grass. Some will evaporate slowly into the atmosphere, carried by the global winds to fall as gentle rain on a distant, roaring ocean. Millions of years from now, some of the very atoms that are currently making up the screen you're looking at, or the hands you're holding it with, might be gathered together by gravity to form a newly igniting star in a beautifully distant nebula. The deeply quiet first 30 minutes after death are merely the opening notes of this grand, infinite cosmic symphony of eternal recycling. Let us also briefly consider the strange nature of time itself during these first 30 minutes. To the deeply grieving loved one sitting beside the still physical form, these minutes can feel simultaneously agonizingly slow and tragically fast. The steady ticking of the wall clock becomes a heavy, mechanical reminder of absence. But time, as modern physics has beautifully proven, is not an absolute, rigid, unchanging construct. Time is entirely relative. It is fluidly woven into the very fabric of space, bending and warping depending on extreme gravity and immense velocity. And from the profound perspective of quantum mechanics, the arrow of time behaves in ways that are deeply counterintuitive to our daily experience. In the bizarre quantum realm, processes are very often completely reversible. The strict, unbreakable progression of past, present, and future that entirely dominates our everyday biological lives becomes strangely blurred and uncertain as the human brain's complex biological chronometer begins to completely power down in those 30 minutes. The subjective experience of time might alter dramatically for the dissipating quantum information. Does a single minute suddenly feel like an eternity? Does the entire vast history of the universe suddenly collapse into a single, profound, dimensionless point of now? We cannot possibly know for certain, but the complex mathematical equations of quantum mechanics allow for possibilities that stretch far beyond our earthly biological imaginations. In those crucial, silent 30 minutes, as the boundary between the internal conscious world and the external infinite universe grows thin and permeable, the strict linear march of time might simply dissolve into a vast, timeless, eternal ocean. The universe does not rush this process. It waited 13.8 billion years for the precise combination of elements to produce your consciousness. When that temporary biological journey reaches its end, the universe gently, patiently welcomes its scattered pieces back home, governed by the same beautiful laws of physics that guide the swirling galaxies. There is no void, no true emptiness. There is only the quiet, majestic continuation of the eternal cosmic dance. As we delve deeper into the profound silence of those first 30 minutes, we must confront one of the most beautiful and perplexing mysteries of quantum mechanics, a phenomenon that Albert Einstein once famously and skeptically described as spooky action at a distance. This is the staggering concept of quantum entanglement. For the entirety of your human life, perhaps for 80 or 90 long years, the trillions of cells and septillions of atoms within your physical form have existed in a highly coordinated, miraculously synchronized state. They have been continuously communicating with one another at speeds and in ways that entirely defy our classical understanding of physics. The electrons spinning in the calcium atoms of your bones have been inextricably entangled with the electrons dancing in the iron of your blood and the carbon of your beating heart. They have functioned as a single, unified, miraculously coherent quantum system, a highly localized concentration of the vast universe experiencing itself from a very specific, entirely unique point of view. But what truly happens to this profound internal connection when the biological engine finally powers down and the rhythmic breathing stops? In the strictly medical sense, the cessation of life is viewed merely as an uncoupling, a tragic breaking of physical bonds. But in the infinite underlying reality of quantum fields, true entanglement cannot simply be erased by the slowing of a human heart or the fading of a final breath. As the biological temperature begins to gently drop in the quiet room, and the physical barriers of the delicate cells slowly begin to degrade, the dense, localized entanglement of the human body does not instantly vanish. Rather, it begins to slowly, inexorably spread. The fundamental particles that once made up the singular, beautiful entity known as you begin to subtly interact with the particles of the air floating in the room, the soft fabric of the resting bed, the gentle hands of grieving loved ones holding yours, and eventually the very atmosphere of the earth itself. You are not disappearing into terrifying nothingness. You are simply expanding peacefully into everything. Before we trace this invisible, expanding web of quantum connections even further out into the cosmic dark, I want to take a brief, quiet moment to gently pause. If you are deeply feeling the calming resonance of this meditative journey, I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through the profound mysteries of our ancient universe. It is a quiet truth that 71% of the thoughtful individuals who embark on these contemplative journeys with us have not yet subscribed to our channel. If this quiet space brings you a sense of intellectual safety and deep wonder, please consider softly clicking that subscribe button. Your gentle support helps us tremendously, allowing our small community of cosmic explorers to continue uncovering the infinite beauty of the universe together. Now, let us return our focus to the quiet room, to the extraordinary, completely invisible transition occurring in the immediate, silent aftermath of the final breath. Imagine the human body not merely as a solid sculpture made of flesh and bone, but as an incredibly dense, brilliantly glowing localized wave existing within the boundless, eternal ocean of the quantum field. For decades upon decades, the continuous biological processes of breathing, eating, and complex thinking acted exactly like a constant, highly focused energy, carefully holding this specific standing wave together, maintaining its sharp boundaries against the chaotic, endlessly swirling currents of the external physical world. But when that focused biological energy finally and inevitably ceases, the standing wave does not violently crash or abruptly vanish into thin air. Instead, it begins a slow, beautiful, and entirely natural process of quantum decoherence. The sharp boundaries of the biological self begin to softly blur into the background. The deeply encoded quantum information that previously dictated the precise shape of an eye, the specific curve of a smile, or the exact pattern of a fingerprint, begins to subtly leak into the surrounding environment. This is an awe-inspiring realization. The physical room where a person peacefully passes away is not actually emptied of their presence in those first 10, 20, or 30 minutes. From a strictly physical and quantum perspective, the room is actually becoming entirely saturated with their fundamental physical essence. The thermal radiation gently lifting off the slowly cooling skin is actively carrying infinitesimal, encrypted fragments of their physical history out into the immediate atmosphere. The very last breath exhaled from the resting lungs is a vast, swirling galaxy of carbon and oxygen atoms that will soon mix effortlessly with the global winds, carrying the distinct physical signature of that specific human life across immense oceans and vast, quiet continents. To truly grasp the staggering scale of this transition, we can look to the monumental discoveries made by the brilliant minds at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and the European Space Agency. When these dedicated organizations point their powerful space telescopes, instruments capable of peering across billions of years of deep time toward the deepest, darkest patches of the ancient night sky, they do not find empty voids. Instead, they find sprawling, majestic stellar nurseries, colossal clouds of interstellar gas and dust spanning trillions of miles across the deep cosmic silence. Within these breathtaking nebulas, ancient stars that have finally reached the end of their long, brilliant lives undergo massive, spectacular transformations, shedding their outer layers in quiet, beautiful planetary nebulas, or exploding outward in unimaginably violent supernovas. When a massive star dies, it absolutely does not leave a dark hole in the universe. It generously gifts its accumulated elemental wealth back to the cosmos. The heavy elements forged in its blazing core, the very same carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen that actively construct the delicate architecture of our own human bodies, are cast out into the infinite dark, destined to eventually coalesce into new planets, new oceans, and perhaps, billions of years later, new breathing, dreaming biological beings. The profound, deeply comforting truth is that the exact same fundamental laws of quantum physics and thermodynamics that govern the majestic death of a distant supergiant star are intimately and perfectly governing the quiet, solemn transition of a human being in those first 30 minutes. We are not somehow separate from the grand cosmic order. We are an integral, beautiful, fleeting expression of it. The late, brilliant astrophysicist Carl Sagan once famously and beautifully observed that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. We are star stuff that has miraculously taken its destiny into its own fragile hands. For a brief, shining moment in the vast expanse of deep cosmic time, the ancient, wandering atoms of the universe gathered themselves together into a highly complex, self-aware biological pattern, entirely capable of asking profound existential questions, capable of feeling deep, abiding love, capable of gazing up at the twinkling night sky and experiencing a profound, overwhelming sense of respectful wonder. But the cosmos is endlessly dynamic in a state of constant flux, and no specific pattern, no matter how beautiful or complex, can hold its rigid shape forever. The transition that begins so quietly in those first 30 minutes after biological death is simply the cosmos gently, patiently reclaiming its loaned materials, allowing the temporary, highly organized state of a human consciousness to peacefully dissolve back into the infinite, quiet potential of the quantum vacuum. This absolutely does not mean that the life was meaningless or that the unique, precious pattern of that individual is lost forever to the merciless void. In the strict mathematics of quantum mechanics, information is a fundamental, indestructible property of reality. The complex, unique pattern of energy and information that constituted your specific life, your cherished memories, your difficult choices, your quiet moments of profound realization, is permanently woven into the vast, unfolding tapestry of the entire universe. It cannot be undone. It cannot be magically erased. It is merely changing its state of expression, moving seamlessly from a highly localized temporary biological phenomenon into a diffuse, universal, eternal reality. Consider the strange concept of the quantum observer effect, one of the most deeply unsettling principles in modern theoretical physics. This rigorous principle suggests that the mere act of conscious observation fundamentally alters the state of a quantum system, literally collapsing a vast, swirling cloud of infinite possibilities into a single, defined, measurable physical reality. Throughout your entire beautiful life, your consciousness has acted as a continuous, active observer, anchoring the swirling, chaotic quantum possibilities of your physical body into a solid, tangible, predictable, biological state. Every single second, your mind has been quietly, automatically collapsing the quantum wave function of your existence, forcing the universe to present you with a coherent reality. But what truly happens when the biological anchor of that observer finally gives way to the silence? As the human brain permanently ceases its electrical firing in those first critical minutes, the continuous, active observation of the self gently comes to a definitive halt. Without the rigid biological mind to force the body into a single, classical physical state, does the physical form begin to subtly, quietly revert to its fundamental, probabilistic quantum nature? In a very real, deeply physical sense, the human body begins to slip away from the strict, deterministic rules of classical physics and slowly, beautifully returns to the strange, fluid, limitless realm of quantum mechanics. The rigid boundary between the internal self and the external universe begins to completely dissolve into the quiet, welcoming dark. This ultimate dissolution is not a violent tearing apart, but rather a gentle, peaceful surrender, a long, quiet exhale after a lifetime of continuous breathing. Think of the profound, heavy silence that blankets a deep forest just after a heavy winter snowfall. The millions of individual, uniquely, intricately shaped snowflakes have finally ended their turbulent, chaotic journey through the freezing atmosphere and have finally settled softly onto the dark, sleeping earth, merging together into a single, seamless, blindingly white blanket of perfect, absolute stillness. In those first 30 minutes, the trillions of active, constantly vibrating cells in the human body are exactly like those settling snowflakes, finally coming to a gentle rest, finally releasing their accumulated biological tension, finally merging back into the vast, undisturbed stillness of the surrounding environment. The frantic biological struggle to maintain internal equilibrium against the relentless, universal forces of entropy is finally, peacefully over. The universe, in all its infinite, ancient wisdom, absolutely does not judge this natural transition as a failure of the biological machine. The universe simply welcomes the returning energy with open, beautiful arms. The thermal heat gently leaves the skin, the electrical charges quietly dissipate from the fading neurons. The complex chemical bonds begin their slow, inevitable relaxation, and the profound, eternal silence of the cosmos gently rushes in to fill the exact space where a loud, vibrant human life once continuously and beautifully echoed. It is right here, in this quiet, unseen microscopic transition, that we can find a deep, lasting sense of intellectual safety and profound existential comfort. We are so deeply conditioned by our culture and primal biological fears to mistakenly view the end of life as a terrifying plunge into absolute darkness, an agonizing separation from everything we have ever known and loved. But when we bravely shift our perspective and gaze through the rigorous, unforgiving, yet deeply poetic lens of fundamental physics, the terrifying illusion of absolute destruction completely falls away. We are forced to humbly recognize that there is absolutely no true emptiness in our universe, no terrifying void waiting to maliciously consume us. There is only ancient energy, endlessly shifting, endlessly transforming, endlessly expressing itself in a trillion different, beautiful ways. The first 30 minutes after death are not a tragic journey into nothingness. They are the exact, beautiful opposite. They are a profound journey into everything. They are the beautiful, microscopic unlocking of the biological cage, the gentle release of a localized, tightly wound spring of cosmic energy back into the boundless, infinite reservoir of the profound universe. You do not simply disappear. You simply become part of the gentle, cool breeze blowing softly outside the window. You become part of the quiet, shifting shadows stretching slowly across the floor. You become part of the ancient, starlit sky that arches majestically over the sleeping world. You become, once again, perfectly and seamlessly integrated with the vast, ancient, eternal cosmos from which you originally, miraculously came. Let us drift further into the profound, unseen, microscopic landscape that unfolds precisely within these highly critical first 30 minutes. Have you ever deeply considered the invisible, radiating, energetic presence you constantly project into the physical world? We are not merely dense chemical machines made of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. We are, quite literally, magnificent, continuously glowing electrical beings existing within a dark universe. With every single beat of your heart, a powerful electrical impulse travels seamlessly through the complex cardiac tissue, generating a localized electromagnetic field that extends outward, far beyond the physical boundaries of your skin. Every fleeting thought you have, Every sudden memory you recall, every surge of profound emotion you feel is governed by the rapid, continuous firing of billions of microscopic neurons in your brain, creating a delicate, ever-shifting symphony of electrical currents. This measurable, dynamic electromagnetic field is the invisible, vibrant halo of biological life, a vibrating aura of energy that interacts invisibly and constantly with the external world around you. But what truly happens to this complex electrical symphony when the biological conductor finally lowers its baton and the loud music of life slowly fades into the deep, quiet silence? The rigid biological structures begin to halt their frantic, highly organized pumping of charged ions across delicate cellular membranes. The intricate microscopic power plants within our trillions of cells, known as the mitochondria, completely cease their tireless, lifelong production of the chemical energy needed to meticulously maintain this electrical charge. To the grieving, naked human eye, the internal light has simply gone out forever. But in the rigorous, infinitely precise, and completely unsentimental realm of quantum electrodynamics, the fundamental charge of a single electron cannot simply be erased from the existence of the universe. The sudden cessation of biological electricity is absolutely not the final end of that energy. It is merely the gentle release of those fundamental atomic charges from their strict, highly organized biological duties. Before we trace the fascinating, invisible journey of these newly liberated electrical charges into the vast, ancient cosmos, I invite you to take a gentle, mindful breath with me. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion on this infinite journey through the most beautiful and complex mysteries of our universe. It is a deeply humbling truth that 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who seek comfort and intellectual understanding in these quiet explorations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace in this shared silence and intellectual safety in our gentle uncovering of the cosmos, please take a soft moment to subscribe. Your gentle presence helps our small, quiet community of cosmic explorers thrive, ensuring that we can continue to walk together into the vast, ancient unknown. Now, let us return to the fading electrical symphony and the profound, heavy quiet of the resting physical form. As those initial 30 minutes gently and inevitably pass, the highly organized electromagnetic field of the human body slowly collapses inward, but the fundamental subatomic particles responsible for it, the spinning electrons and the dense protons, remain entirely intact, completely indestructible. They simply stop moving in the rigid, coordinated, forced patterns previously dictated by the living, conscious brain and the rhythmically beating heart. Instead, they begin to subtly interact with the ambient, constantly shifting electromagnetic fields of the quiet room itself. The unseen static electricity floating in the dry air, the faint, omnipresent magnetic pull of the earth itself, the silent, invisible waves of cosmic radiation passing continuously through the solid walls. All of these ancient, external cosmic forces begin to gently tug at the newly liberated particles within the resting biological body. For 80 or 90 long years, the powerful biological will of the living organism successfully and stubbornly resisted these external cosmic pulls, carefully maintaining its own separate, highly distinct electrical identity against the relentless forces of the universe. But now, in the beautiful, unresisting, perfect quiet of the physical transition, the body gently surrenders its electrical sovereignty. It allows its countless vibrating particles to be subtly influenced and effortlessly guided by the ancient, infinite forces of the wider universe. This is a profound, beautifully literal merging with the environment. Your personal electromagnetic field, the invisible, unique, energetic signature of your entirely unique consciousness softly diffuses outward, rippling gracefully into the surrounding physical space like a smooth stone, gently dropped into a perfectly still, ancient, undisturbed pond. The invisible ripples absolutely do not vanish. They simply expand infinitely outward, eventually overlapping and merging seamlessly with the vast, quiet background electromagnetic hum of the entire universe. Let us venture even deeper into the mysterious, deeply counterintuitive heart of modern physics, into a staggering concept known as quantum superposition. In the strict, highly predictable classical world of biology and macroscopic physics, a physical object can only exist in one precise state and one highly specific location at any given time. You are either sitting comfortably in a chair, or you are walking actively through a door. You are either alive, maintaining a highly specific, rigorous biological order, or you are not. But at the fundamental underlying subatomic level, particles entirely and completely ignore these rigid, classical rules of reality. Before a tiny particle is specifically measured or consciously observed by a system, it does not exist in a single, defined physical state. Rather, it exists in a vast, swirling, invisible cloud of infinite probabilities, a magnificent superposition of all possible states existing simultaneously. During your entire, beautiful, complex life, the relentless, highly organized biological processes of your physical body acted exactly as a constant, continuous, inescapable measurement. The relentless pumping of hot blood, the continuous lightning-fast firing of neurons, the steady, rhythmic intake of respiration, these continuous biological actions aggressively forced your trillions of subatomic particles to constantly collapse their infinite quantum probabilities into a single, highly specific, visibly functioning human form. You were, in literal essence, constantly forcing the vast universe to choose a single, solid reality for you out of an infinite number of possible, ghost-like realities. But what exactly happens in those quiet, sacred 30 minutes when the biological measurement finally, peacefully, and permanently stops? As the complex human machinery officially powers down and the rigid biological constraints begin to completely and entirely dissolve, the septillions of atoms within the body are no longer forcefully compelled to strictly maintain the specific, highly improbable, fragile configuration of a living human being. Without the constant driving, relentless energy of biological life to force them into a single, classical, rigid reality, do these fundamental cosmic particles begin to subtly, quietly drift back toward a state of quantum superposition? It is a staggering, deeply beautiful, and existentially profound thought. The rigid, definitive, biological statement of saying, "I am here, and I am exactly this," slowly begins to soften, blur, and expand into a gentle, infinite cosmic whisper of saying, "I could be anywhere, and I could be absolutely anything." The physical boundaries that previously separated your internal private physical reality from the external infinite universe become increasingly permeable, increasingly fragile, and increasingly probabilistic. The billions of carbon atoms currently resting quietly in your still hand are no longer strictly functioning just as carbon atoms in a human hand. They are slowly, inevitably, and beautifully returning to their fundamental, original state as pure, ancient cosmic potential. They are patiently preparing to become part of the dark, rich, damp soil, part of the quiet, growing, intricate roots of an ancient green oak tree, or part of the vast, shifting, invisible atmosphere of the earth itself. In those deeply silent 30 minutes, you are undergoing a magnificent transition from a creature of strict, singular biological certainty into a magnificent, diffuse, boundless entity of infinite cosmic possibility. The profound, often feared mystery of physical death is absolutely not a terrifying reduction to black nothingness. It is an extraordinary, explosive, peaceful expansion into everythingness. The renowned and highly respected astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson once articulated a profoundly beautiful and scientifically rigorous truth that perfectly echoes this quiet, microscopic transition. He famously stated that we are biologically connected to every other living thing in the world. We are chemically connected to all molecules on Earth, and we are atomically connected to all atoms in the universe. We are not figuratively, but absolutely, literally, stardust. This is not merely a soft, poetic metaphor meant to temporarily soothe a grieving human heart. It is an absolute, undeniable, hard fact of fundamental physics and deep astrophysics. Every single heavy element in the human body, everything heavier than the simple atoms of hydrogen and helium, was painstakingly and violently forged in the incredibly hot, unimaginably dense nuclear cores of massive, ancient stars over billions upon billions of years. When those magnificent ancient stars eventually exhausted their internal nuclear fuel, they died in spectacular, universe-altering supernova explosions, scattering their precious, newly forged heavy elements across the vast, infinite, freezing emptiness of deep cosmic space. Those ancient, newly born atoms drifted quietly through the dark, cold vacuum for millions upon millions of years, before eventually being pulled together by the gentle, inexorable, patient force of gravity to form our vibrant, swirling solar system, our beautiful, blue, rocky planet, and, ultimately, the incredibly complex, fragile, biological vessel that currently holds your highly unique human consciousness. When you deeply and truly understand this magnificent, billion-year-old cosmic journey, the quiet physical events of those first 30 minutes after the final heartbeat take on a completely different, profoundly peaceful, and majestic meaning. The cessation of biological life is absolutely not a tragic, terrifying banishment into a dark, lonely, unforgiving void. It is, in the most literal, scientifically accurate, and mathematically provable sense, a beautiful, long-awaited cosmic homecoming. The ancient, wandering atoms that temporarily gathered together to form your beating heart, your searching eyes, and your dreaming brain are finally being gently released from their temporary, highly demanding biological assignment. They have spent 80 or 90 years participating in the incredibly rare, highly complex, deeply beautiful phenomenon of human consciousness. And now, their brief, beautiful shift is officially over. They are officially and peacefully returning to the vast, quiet universe from which they originally, miraculously came. The heavy quietness in the room is absolutely not the terrifying silence of total absence. It is the profound, deeply respectful silence of a majestic, ancient return. The universe patiently and generously loaned you its precious, ancient materials, and now, with infinite gentleness and perfect cosmic balance, it is patiently taking them back. Let us zoom in even closer, down to the exact microscopic level of the simple, miraculous molecule that makes up roughly 60% of the entire physical human body: water. The average human body contains trillions upon trillions of vibrating water molecules, each perfectly consisting of one heavy oxygen atom and two tiny hydrogen atoms held firmly together by invisible, delicate, yet incredibly strong electromagnetic bonds. During your entire active life, this vast internal biological ocean was in constant, vigorous, chaotic motion, pumped relentlessly and powerfully through thousands of miles of complex blood vessels, sweating quietly through the millions of microscopic pores of your skin, and constantly flushing toxic waste from your trillions of highly active biological cells. in the first 30 minutes after the biological engine finally stops, this frantic, continuous internal ocean finally, peacefully goes perfectly, beautifully still. The powerful muscular heart is no longer forcefully driving the immense hydraulic pressure. The dynamic, turbulent red rivers of blood slowly settle into quiet, stagnant, resting pools within the veins. But at the strictly microscopic, quantum level, the tiny water molecules are absolutely not dead. They continue to vibrate rapidly, their invisible hydrogen bonds constantly breaking and reforming in a frantic, invisible microscopic dance governed purely by the ambient thermal energy of the quiet room. As the physical body slowly cools down, matching the temperature of its environment, the intense speed of this microscopic dance begins to gently, noticeably slow down. The water molecules, previously rushing through narrow, restrictive biological channels at incredible speeds, finally find a rare moment of profound, undisturbed cosmic rest. They settle into a quiet, low-energy state, entirely peaceful, entirely ready for the next unknown phase of their ancient journey. Even in these very early, silent minutes, an invisible, beautiful process of chemical liberation begins to unfold. As the remaining moisture on the surface of the cooling skin and within the delicate, resting lining of the lungs begins to interact directly with the dry, ambient air of the room, individual water molecules slowly gain just enough thermal energy to finally break entirely free from the resting physical body. They undergo a quiet, miraculous phase transition, shifting seamlessly from a heavy, bound liquid state into a light, free, invisible, gaseous vapor. One by one, these tiny, ancient molecules float gently up into the air, carrying absolutely microscopic, entirely invisible fragments of your physical existence out into the wider, waiting world. A single, standard breath of air in that quiet room contains billions of these newly liberated, drifting water molecules. Eventually, over the coming days and weeks, these invisible molecules will drift quietly out of the open window, rising high into the Earth's vast, swirling, dynamic atmosphere. They will mingle effortlessly and seamlessly with water molecules evaporated from the deep, dark, ancient oceans, the vast green, breathing forests, and the ancient, slowly melting icy glaciers. They will eventually condense high in the freezing, thin atmosphere to form beautiful, drifting white clouds, and they will eventually fall back to the earth as gentle, nourishing, life-giving rain. The exact same water that once formed your joyful tears, the heavy sweat of your hardest labor, and the warm blood in your rhythmically beating heart, will quite literally become the gentle rain that nourishes the ancient, quiet forests of the world. This is absolutely not a poetic fantasy designed to comfort the grieving. It is the strict, undeniable, beautiful reality of the global water cycle, perfectly governed by the unyielding, ancient laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics. When we bravely allow our anxious human minds to fully absorb these rigorous, beautiful scientific realities, a profound and lasting sense of peace begins to gently wash over us. Our primal, deeply ingrained evolutionary fear of death is almost entirely rooted in the deeply flawed, highly limited, entirely macroscopic perspective of our fragile biology. We are understandably terrified of losing our rigid physical boundaries, terrified of losing our specific, localized human identity, terrified of being abruptly disconnected from the beautiful, vibrant world we have come to love so deeply. But quantum physics and astrophysics gently, firmly take us by the hand and patiently, methodically show us that true, absolute disconnection is absolutely, fundamentally impossible in our universe. You cannot possibly be separated from the cosmos because you are, at your deepest, most fundamental subatomic level, the cosmos itself. You are a vast, unimaginably ancient collection of quantum fields and vibrating particles that have existed since the very dawn of cosmic time, and will absolutely continue to exist until the very end of time. The brief, beautiful, highly complex pattern called you is simply a temporary, magnificent, localized arrangement of this eternal, shifting energy. In those profoundly silent, sacred first 30 minutes after the final quiet breath, the universe is absolutely not destroying anything. It is performing a gentle, incredibly intricate, flawlessly executed act of quantum dismantling. It is carefully, respectfully taking apart the incredibly complex, highly localized biological masterpiece that was your physical life, and it is peacefully, patiently returning every single subatomic piece back to the vast, infinite cosmic gallery for future use. The profound, deeply misunderstood mystery of this transition is absolutely not something to be feared with a trembling, anxious heart. It is something to be approached with a deep, abiding sense of respectful wonder and quiet acceptance. It is the ultimate, inescapable, beautiful proof that we are an integral part of an infinite, eternal, and breathtakingly beautiful cosmic system. We absolutely do not end in the cold dark. We simply transform, expanding infinitely outward into the ancient, silent vastness of the universe, gently beginning our next great, mysterious journey through the endless, magnificent quiet of space and time. Let us continue to rest peacefully in the profound, undisturbed quiet of the room, allowing our minds to drift even deeper into the magnificent, unseen atomic choreography that unfolds when a human life gently concludes. In the very center of this heavy silence, within the cooling, intricate network of once vibrant veins and resting arteries, lies an element of extraordinary cosmic significance: iron. During your entire, beautiful, active life, roughly 4 grams of pure iron circulated tirelessly through your body. This iron was the crucial beating heart of your hemoglobin, the complex protein responsible for grabbing onto life-giving oxygen in your lungs and carrying it safely to every single one of your trillions of waiting cells. Every deep breath you took, every mountain you climbed, every gentle word you whispered was powered entirely by the tireless, invisible work of these microscopic iron atoms. But as the rhythmic pumping of the heart completely ceases, and the red rivers of blood slowly settle into quiet, motionless pools, these ancient atoms do not suddenly lose their fundamental physical nature. They simply shift their orientation, entering a new, profoundly peaceful phase of their billions of years-long journey. To understand the true, awe-inspiring reality of this quiet moment, we must look far back into the deep, turbulent history of the cosmos, far beyond the familiar blue skies of our Earth, into the violent, blazing hearts of dying stars. Before we trace the magnificent ancient lineage of the iron currently resting within the profound silence, I invite you to take a slow, gentle breath and settle deeper into this shared meditative space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion on this quiet journey through the most beautiful mysteries of our universe. It is a deeply humbling truth that 71% of the curious, gentle minds who find peace and wonder in these cosmic explorations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If this quiet space offers you comfort and a sense of intellectual safety, please consider softly clicking that subscribe button. Your gentle support allows our quiet community to continue discovering the deep wonders of the cosmos together, ensuring that we never walk into the vast unknown alone. Now, let us return to the silent room and to the ancient, microscopic stardust resting within the stillness. Iron is absolutely not a delicate, fragile element. It is the ultimate heavy ash of stellar fusion, a permanent monument to the incredible forces that govern our universe. in the incredibly dense, blazing core of a massive star. Lighter elements, like hydrogen and helium, are relentlessly smashed together under unimaginable gravitational pressure to create heavier and heavier elements. This magnificent, violent process of cosmic alchemy releases the brilliant, blinding energy that makes the stars shine so beautifully in our night sky, pushing back against the crushing weight of their own massive gravity. But when a dying star finally begins to fuse silicon into iron, the delicate, billions of years-long balance between the crushing inward pull of gravity and the outward push of nuclear fusion is irrevocably broken. Fusing iron does not release energy. It greedily consumes it. In a matter of a mere fraction of a second, the massive star collapses inward upon itself, rebounding in a spectacular, universe-altering explosion known as a supernova. The very iron atoms currently resting quietly in the still, silent blood of the physical body were forged in exactly this type of unimaginable, catastrophic cosmic violence billions of years ago. They were blasted out into the freezing, infinite void of deep space, drifting quietly through the dark, vast cosmos for eons before eventually being swept up in the swirling, dusty nebula that would eventually collapse to form our magnificent solar system. When you look at the silent, resting physical form, you are not merely looking at a temporary biological vessel. You are looking at a magnificent, highly organized collection of ancient stellar debris. As the biological energy that previously kept these ancient iron atoms in constant turbulent motion finally fades away in those first 30 minutes, a new, incredibly subtle cosmic interaction begins to peacefully take place. The Earth itself is a giant, spinning magnet generating a vast, invisible, protective magnetic field that stretches far out into space, shielding our fragile blue planet from the harsh, deadly solar winds. This omnipresent, ancient magnetic field penetrates absolutely everything on Earth, passing silently through towering mountains, deep oceans, and the solid walls of the quiet room where the physical body currently rests. During your active life, the turbulent, rushing flow of your blood and the strong, complex electrical currents of your living body easily overpowered the gentle, subtle pull of the Earth's magnetic field on the iron in your veins. But now, in the perfect, profound silence of the physical transition, the biological resistance is completely gone. The billions of microscopic, ancient iron atoms slowly begin to feel the gentle, quiet, irresistible tug of the Earth's vast magnetic field. At an entirely invisible, subatomic level, these tiny particles begin to subtly align themselves with the magnetic north and south poles of the planet. It is a microscopic, breathtakingly beautiful surrender. The iron in the blood is actively reconnecting with the massive, spinning iron core at the very center of the Earth. The physical body is no longer a separate, fiercely independent, biological entity struggling to maintain its own internal environment. It is gently, seamlessly merging its own physical properties with the massive, planetary body of the Earth itself. And the Earth itself is absolutely not sitting still. It is a massive, beautiful spaceship composed of rock, water, and ancient stardust hurtling through the dark, freezing vacuum of space at a staggering speed of roughly 67,000 miles per hour as it continuously orbits our glowing sun. The sun, in turn, is dragging our entire magnificent solar system along as it orbits the supermassive black hole at the center of our vast Milky Way galaxy at an incomprehensible speed of roughly 500,000 miles per hour. When a human life gently concludes in a quiet, seemingly motionless room, the illusion of stillness is entirely absolute to the grieving human eye. But the profound physical reality is that the resting body and all the newly liberated ancient atoms within it are currently participating in a majestic, high-speed journey through the infinite cosmos. The first 30 minutes after death are absolutely not spent in stagnant, unchanging silence. They are spent traveling thousands of miles through the vast, empty beauty of the solar system. The universe absolutely does not stop moving when a single human heart stops beating. The grand, magnificent, eternal cosmic dance continues without a single momentary pause. The newly liberated atoms of the physical body are simply changing their invisible dance partners, moving away from the highly restricted, tightly choreographed routine of biological life into the wild, free, sweeping waltz of immense celestial mechanics. You are continuously moving, continuously participating in the grand trajectory of the entire swirling galaxy. Let us deeply consider the profound, mysterious concept of information conservation once again, but this time through the rigorous, unforgiving lens of entropy and the relentless arrow of time. In the classical macroscopic world of our everyday experience, we observe that things inevitably break down. Towering mountains slowly erode into fine dust. Hot cups of coffee eventually cool to match the ambient temperature of the room, and complex biological organisms ultimately degrade. This is the inescapable, universal law of increasing entropy, the fundamental tendency of all closed systems to move predictably from highly organized states to highly disorganized, chaotic states. Biological life is an incredibly rare, beautiful, temporary rebellion against this universal law. We borrow energy from the sun, from the plants and animals we consume, to painstakingly maintain our highly ordered internal structures. When that continuous biological effort finally ceases in the first 30 minutes, the rebellion is officially over. But in the deep, strange, mathematical world of fundamental physics, particularly in the study of quantum mechanics and the bizarre, mind-bending physics of black holes, investigated by brilliant minds like Stephen Hawking, there is a fierce, ongoing understanding regarding the ultimate fate of information. Many theoretical physicists strongly argue that the fundamental quantum information that completely describes a specific physical system can absolutely never be fundamentally destroyed. If we bravely and thoughtfully apply this profound cosmic principle to the gentle passing of a human life, the implications are absolutely staggering and deeply comforting. The highly specific, entirely unique arrangement of atoms, electrical charges, and quantum states that constituted your exact, unrepeatable human life is absolutely not being magically erased from the permanent hard drive of the universe. The complex biological book is not being burned into nothingness. The delicate pages are simply being unbound, gently separated, and peacefully scattered into the cosmic winds. The profound, detailed information of your existence remains permanently, indelibly etched into the fundamental, invisible fabric of space-time. The vast universe absolutely remembers you, not through sentimentality or fragile human emotion, but through the strict, unbreakable, eternal laws of quantum physics. The exact, invisible, energetic footprint you left on the physical world during your 80 or 90 years of breathing, thinking, and moving continues to quietly ripple outward. It subtly affects the precise trajectory of surrounding air molecules, slightly alters the electromagnetic fields of the space you previously occupied, and continuously contributes to the grand, unfolding, infinite calculation of the entire cosmos. Nothing is lost. Everything is meticulously accounted for in the grand, ancient ledger of the universe. The profound mystery of the transition is simply the changing of the energetic language from the loud, booming voice of biology back to the quiet, subtle whispers of quantum mechanics. The profound wonder of this quiet transition lies in recognizing that the rigid boundary we desperately draw between life and death is an entirely artificial human construct, based entirely in our highly limited, biologically biased perception of time and motion. The universe itself absolutely does not recognize this strict, terrifying boundary. To the vast, ancient, silent cosmos, there is only a continuous, magnificent flowing of energy, a gentle, eternal shifting of states, a never-ending journey from one beautiful form to another. The deep mystery is not what terrifying thing happens after we die. The true mystery is how the chaotic, wandering ancient atoms of the universe ever managed to temporarily assemble themselves into such a beautiful, fragile, self-aware pattern in the very first place. For a brief, shining cosmic instant, a small handful of ancient stardust woke up, looked around, felt the warm sun on its skin, loved, laughed, and asked profound existential questions about its own mysterious origin. And when that brief, beautiful moment finally concludes, the stardust simply goes back to sleep, gently returning to the infinite, quiet reservoir of universal potential without fear or hesitation. This is not a tragic defeat. It is the ultimate, magnificent triumph of temporary existence. You were here. You successfully participated in the grandest, most beautiful phenomenon in the entire observable universe. The miracle of conscious observation. The gentle, silent 30 minutes that follow the final breath are simply the quiet, respectful applause of the cosmos, the peaceful, majestic lowering of the curtain on a truly magnificent, unrepeatable biological performance, inviting the eternal energy to prepare for its next infinite journey. As we continuously reflect on this vast, quiet journey, we must completely abandon the frightening, primitive concept of the empty void. There is simply no empty space waiting to swallow us in the deep, ancient universe. Even the darkest, seemingly empty stretches of intergalactic space are constantly boiling with invisible, fluctuating quantum fields and dark energy. When your physical vessel finally releases its tight grip on your localized energy, you are absolutely not falling into a dark abyss. You are being gently caught by the most complex, beautiful, and ancient web of physical laws imaginable. The profound silence that fills the room in those first 30 minutes is not the heavy silence of an ending. It is the vast, expansive, pregnant silence of a vast universe perfectly balancing its equations. It is the same majestic silence that exists between the slowly orbiting planets, the same quiet peace that blankets the freezing surface of the moon, the same gentle stillness that rests at the very center of a swirling galaxy. You are simply trading the loud, chaotic, often painful noise of biological survival for the perfect, absolute, eternal peace of cosmic integration. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom, gently whispers that your specific journey as a human is complete, but your grand journey as an eternal expression of energy is only just continuing its magnificent, infinite progression into the vast, unknown beauty of the deep cosmos. When we observe the peaceful, resting physical form in those quiet minutes, our human eyes deceive us with the profound illusion of absolute solidity. We perceive the cooling skin, the resting hands, and the closed eyelids as dense, impenetrable physical barriers permanently separating the internal private self from the external, infinite world. But the rigorous mathematical lens of quantum mechanics reveals a staggeringly different, deeply poetic, and completely counterintuitive reality. The trillions upon trillions of ancient atoms that meticulously compose the human body are almost entirely made of empty space. If we were to take a single microscopic hydrogen atom from a resting water molecule and theoretically magnify its central, dense nucleus to the exact size of a small, solid marble sitting perfectly in the exact center of a vast, empty, roaring football stadium, the single tiny electron orbiting that specific nucleus would be a microscopic grain of sand, flying frantically around the highest, furthest, darkest seats in the stands. Absolutely everything that exists in the vast measurable distance between that tiny central marble and that distant flying grain of sand is pure, vibrating, invisible, empty vacuum. Therefore, the human body is absolutely not a solid, impenetrable object at all. It is a magnificent, highly porous, incredibly delicate architectural structure made almost entirely of nothingness, held together only by the fierce, invisible, ancient electromagnetic forces of the cosmos. As the biological life force gently recedes and quiets down in those first 30 minutes, the absolute, undeniable permeability of this delicate atomic structure becomes a profound, physical, cosmic reality. But before we journey further into this vast, invisible internal emptiness and discover the ancient cosmic forces silently passing entirely through it, I ask you to take a slow, deep, grounding breath with me in this quiet space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle, dedicated guide through the deepest, most beautiful, and most complex mysteries of our ancient universe. It is a quiet, deeply humbling truth that 71% of the beautiful, searching, curious minds who find profound comfort and intellectual safety in these contemplative, relaxing journeys have not yet subscribed to our channel. If this quiet, shared space brings you a sense of profound peace and a deeply respectful wonder for the magnificent cosmos we inhabit, please consider softly, gently clicking that subscribe button. Your gentle, continued presence helps our small, quiet community of cosmic explorers thrive and grow, ensuring that we can continue to uncover the infinite, ancient beauty of the universe together, step by peaceful step, never wandering into the dark unknown entirely alone. Now, let us return our focus to the heavy, respectful silence of the quiet room and peer deeply into the vast, empty quantum space within the resting atomic structure. Through this vast, internal, microscopic emptiness of the resting physical form, a magnificent, entirely unseen, eternal cosmic storm is continuously and effortlessly raging. Every single second of your entire active biological life, and continuing perfectly without a single moment of hesitation in the profound silence of these first 30 minutes. Approximately 100 trillion tiny, invisible ghost particles known as neutrinos are passing silently, effortlessly, and harmlessly through your body. These incredibly tiny, almost entirely massless fundamental particles are born in the unimaginably hot, fiercely violent nuclear furnace at the very blazing core of our local sun, as well as in the cataclysmic, explosive, universe-altering deaths of distant, ancient supernovas scattered across the vast universe. They travel at nearly the absolute speed of light, crossing the freezing, dark, 93 million miles of empty cosmic space between the sun and the Earth in a mere 8 minutes. Because they interact so incredibly weakly with normal, dense matter, they absolutely do not recognize or respect the illusion of your physical biological solidity. To a speeding, ancient cosmic neutrino, your dense human body, the solid wood of the resting bed, and the massive, rocky crust of the entire Earth itself are virtually indistinguishable from the empty, freezing vacuum of deep intergalactic space. They pass straight through the resting, quiet heart, straight through the still, dreaming brain, straight through the entire spherical mass of the planet, and seamlessly continue their infinite, ancient journey out into the dark, freezing void on the other side, completely unhindered, utterly unchanged, and perfectly silent. During the loud, busy, vibrant, demanding years of biological life, we are entirely oblivious to this continuous, silent, ancient cosmic baptism. We walk we talk, we love, and we deeply grieve, completely unaware that we are being continuously pierced by trillions of invisible ancient messengers from the burning stars. But in the perfect, undisturbed, heavy quiet of the physical transition, this silent, continuous neutrino rain takes on a deeply profound, almost sacred existential significance. The resting physical form is absolutely not isolated from the vast, active, energetic universe. It is continuously, intimately, and physically participating in the grand, energetic flow of the entire cosmos. The neutrinos passing silently through the cooling, resting cells right now are actively carrying direct, physical information from the very burning heart of our blazing star, physically connecting the quiet, resting human form directly to the fierce, violent, burning center of the entire solar system. The rigid, terrifying boundary between the internal human reality and the external, infinite cosmic reality is beautifully revealed to be nothing more than a fragile, temporary, biological illusion. The ancient universe absolutely does not stop at the delicate surface of your cooling skin. It flows continuously, majestically, and silently right through the very center of your eternal being. Let us drift even further out into the ancient, silent cosmos, expanding our human perspective far beyond our local burning star, permeating the entire vast observable universe, filling absolutely every single cubic inch of empty space, including the exact, specific space currently occupied by the resting physical body, is a faint, ancient, invisible whisper of light known as the cosmic microwave background radiation. This incredibly faint, freezing, invisible glow is the literal, physical, measurable afterglow of the Big Bang itself. It is the absolute oldest light in the entire universe, a magnificent, fading, ancient echo of the unimaginably hot, incredibly dense, chaotic moment of cosmic creation that occurred exactly 13.8 billion years ago. This ancient, primordial radiation has been traveling tirelessly through the expanding, freezing dark for billions of years, slowly stretching its wavelengths and cooling down until it became a faint, invisible microwave hum, resting at a freezing temperature merely 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. In the profound, heavy silence of the room, as the human body slowly, inevitably, and peacefully surrenders its accumulated biological heat to the surrounding air molecules, it is also being gently, continuously, and invisibly bathed in this ancient, universal cosmic afterglow. The vibrating, cooling atoms in the resting skin are subtly, invisibly interacting with ancient photons of light that were literally born at the very dawn of physical time itself. This is a staggeringly beautiful, deeply meditative, and profoundly comforting realization. In those precise, quiet, sacred 30 minutes, the highly localized, incredibly brief timeline of a single human life, perhaps 80 or 90 short, rapid revolutions around an ordinary, average yellow star, is directly and physically intersecting with the grand, unfathomable, ancient timeline of the entire cosmos. The ancient, primordial light of universal creation is gently touching and embracing the peaceful ending of a beautiful, highly complex biological story. The brilliant, highly respected physicist Max Planck once eloquently suggested that we must assume behind all force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind, viewing matter not as a solid absolute, but as a derivative of deeper, unseen fields. The resting human body is exactly that small, fragile, beautiful, temporary derivative of the cosmic fabric. When we look closely at it through the rigorous, unyielding, mathematical lens of quantum physics, we absolutely do not see a tragic, finite, terrifying ending. We see the entire magnificent, infinite organization of the universe perfectly and beautifully reflected. We see the heavy, dense iron forged in ancient, dead, exploding supernovas. We see the invisible, speeding ghost particles streaming constantly from the burning sun, and we see the absolute oldest, coldest light of cosmic creation gently embracing the cooling, peaceful form, deep within the intricate, tightly coiled, resting DNA molecules of the quiet physical form. Another, completely invisible, entirely probabilistic, ancient quantum process continues its slow, steady, ancient ticking, utterly unaffected by the sudden cessation of biological life. Throughout your entire vibrant existence, a tiny, highly predictable fraction of the carbon atoms meticulously composing your complex biological tissues has been a highly specific, mildly radioactive, unstable isotope known as carbon-14. This rare, fascinating, invisible isotope is continuously created high in the Earth's upper, freezing atmosphere by the violent, high-speed collision of ancient cosmic rays with invisible nitrogen gas, and it is subsequently absorbed by breathing, green plants and consumed by living animals, eventually becoming seamlessly, tightly woven into the very structural, physical fabric of your human body. Because carbon-14 is fundamentally, inherently unstable, it constantly seeks a more balanced, permanent, resting state through a fascinating, microscopic process called radioactive beta decay. This microscopic, deeply quantum event occurs entirely at random, driven completely and absolutely by the profound, unpredictable, unyielding laws of quantum probability. At any given, unpredictable moment, a single, highly unstable carbon-14 atom might spontaneously transform into a stable, quiet nitrogen atom, violently emitting a tiny, incredibly fast-moving electron and an invisible, ghost-like anti-neutrino out into the vast, waiting universe. In the profound, undisturbed, heavy silence of the first 30 minutes after the final, gentle heartbeat, this microscopic, ancient atomic clock absolutely does not stop ticking, while the grieving, emotionally shattered human world outside the room seems to have tragically and abruptly halted. The deep, underlying, invisible quantum world continues its relentless, eternal, probabilistic, beautiful dance. During those specific, highly sacred 30 minutes, thousands upon thousands of these incredibly rare, highly unstable carbon atoms resting quietly within the cooling tissues will spontaneously, unpredictably, and quietly decay. They will release their tiny, highly energetic particles, shooting invisible, microscopic rays of beta radiation out through the cooling skin and straight into the surrounding space of the room. This is a staggeringly beautiful, deeply poetic, and completely undeniable scientific reality. Even in absolute, undeniable, permanent biological death, the human body continues to actively, literally, and measurably radiate quantum energy and physical information out into the wider, infinite cosmos. The physical form is absolutely not inert, dead matter. It is a slow, quiet, fading biological star, continuously and generously shedding tiny, invisible fragments of its internal, ancient essence into the dark, expansive, waiting universe. The strict, terrifying biological boundary between life and death is entirely and beautifully blurred by this continuous, microscopic, radioactive, cosmic glow. You are continuously, actively participating in the grand, unfolding energetic transformation of the universe, even when the loud, demanding, active voice of your biological consciousness has finally, peacefully gone entirely and permanently quiet. As the physical temperature continues to naturally drop and the frantic, chaotic biological vibrations slowly quiet down into absolute stillness, we must profoundly and radically reconsider the fundamental nature of what we casually call solid matter. In the deeply advanced, mathematically rigorous, incredibly complex realm of quantum field theory, solid, hard particles absolutely do not actually exist in the simple, intuitive way our human minds easily conceptualize them. There are absolutely no tiny, hard, solid spheres bouncing rapidly around inside the dark centers of the atoms. Instead, the universe is completely filled with vast, invisible, continuous, infinite, fluid entities known as quantum fields. There is a universal electron field that stretches infinitely across the entire dark universe. There is an up quark field, a down quark field, a vast neutrino field, and a limitless electromagnetic field. What we biologically and macroscopically perceive as a solid, physical particle, a tiny electron or a heavy quark, is actually just a highly localized, incredibly concentrated vibration, a tiny, energetic, temporary ripple in one of these vast, universal, underlying, ancient fields. Your entire, beautifully complex, highly organized human body is fundamentally a highly synchronized, miraculous, temporary harmony of countless, overlapping, vibrating ripples in these infinite cosmic fields. For your entire beautiful life, these specific, highly energetic ripples have danced beautifully together in a highly localized, fiercely maintained, magnificent pattern that you proudly and fiercely called your unique identity. But what exactly happens to a temporary ripple when the specific, driving, focused energy that originally caused it finally, peacefully subsides into the silence? Imagine a perfectly calm, mirror-like, ancient, dark pond stretching infinitely in absolutely all directions under a quiet night sky. If you toss a heavy stone into the still water, you immediately create a distinct, visible, highly organized pattern of expanding ripples. For a brief, beautiful, fleeting moment, those ripples have a specific, undeniable identity, a measurable physical height, a distinct geographic location, and a clear, mathematical, predictable trajectory. But as they travel outward, slowly interacting with the vast, quiet, immense body of water, they slowly, inevitably, and gently lose their concentrated, driving energy. They gently flatten out, their distinct, sharp boundaries slowly blurring, until they finally, peacefully, and entirely merge back into the perfectly smooth, undisturbed, infinite, dark surface of the ancient pond. The actual physical water that temporarily formed the distinct ripples has absolutely not disappeared or been destroyed. It has simply, peacefully returned to its fundamental, infinite, resting state. In the deeply sacred, completely silent 30 minutes following the final human breath, the incredible, highly concentrated biological energy that sustained your specific, complex physical ripples begins to gently, inevitably, and beautifully subside. The profound, localized vibrations in the vast electron field, the invisible quark field, and the infinite electromagnetic field begin to slowly, peacefully smooth out. You are absolutely not magically vanishing into a terrifying, dark, empty, unforgiving void. Your localized, highly complex energy is simply, beautifully, respectfully, and peacefully returning to the vast, quiet, infinite baseline of the eternal universe. Have you ever considered the profoundly beautiful possibility that you are absolutely not merely a passive consumer of light, but rather an active, radiant, and continuous creator of it? Throughout the 80 or 90 years of your magnificent, incredibly complex biological existence, your physical form has absolutely not existed in total, absolute darkness, not even in the deepest, most quiet, and most heavily silent hours of the midnight watch. Within the trillions of highly active, complex biological cells that meticulously and continuously construct your fragile human body, a continuous, incredibly faint, and staggeringly beautiful emission of pure light is constantly occurring. Brilliant researchers and theoretical scientists refer to this profound microscopic phenomenon as ultra-weak photon emission, or the generation of biophotons. Every single metabolic reaction, every continuous transfer of kinetic and chemical energy within the microscopic, ancient powerhouses of your active cells, releases tiny, invisible packets of electromagnetic light. You are, quite literally and scientifically, a softly glowing biological lantern, continuously radiating a gentle, continuous, entirely invisible luminescence into the surrounding physical space of the universe. But what exactly happens to this beautiful, internal microscopic cosmic light when the driving metabolic engine finally, peacefully powers down, and the heavy, respectful silence of the first 30 minutes begins to gently settle over the resting physical form? The continuous, highly organized biological generation of new biophotons gently and inevitably ceases forever. But the countless photons that have already been naturally created, the ancient, fundamental particles of pure light that were born inside your living, breathing tissues just a few brief, precious moments before the final, gentle breath, absolutely don't simply vanish into terrifying nothingness. They are gently, peacefully released from their temporary biological containment, beginning an extraordinary, eternal, unhindered journey through the vast, quiet, and infinitely expansive universe. Before we follow these newly liberated invisible fragments of your biological light out into the infinite ancient cosmos, I wish to gently pause and welcome you even deeper into our shared, contemplative, and peaceful space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet, dedicated companion on this meditative journey through the most profound, beautiful, and sometimes intimidating mysteries of our universe. It is a deeply humbling, quiet truth that 71% of the gentle, searching, beautiful minds who find deep comfort, intellectual safety, and profound wonder in these cosmic explorations have not yet softly clicked the subscribe button. If this heavy, respectful silence and our shared journey into the vast, ancient unknown brings you a sense of profound inner peace and a respectful awe for existence, please consider gently subscribing to our channel. Your quiet, continuous support helps our small community of cosmic explorers thrive, ensuring that we can safely continue to uncover the vast, breathtaking beauty of the ancient universe together, step by peaceful step, never wandering into the dark unknown alone. Now, let us return to the quiet room, to the heavy, undisturbed silence, and to the magnificent, invisible light gently and peacefully leaving the resting physical form. As the internal, microscopic cellular machinery finally comes to a complete, perfect, and irreversible halt during those highly sacred first 30 minutes, the final, beautiful wave of biological photons is quietly emitted, passing effortlessly and silently through the cooling, resting tissues and out into the surrounding, still air of the silent room. These tiny, entirely massless, fundamental particles of pure electromagnetic energy travel at the absolute maximum physical speed allowed by the strict, unyielding, mathematical laws of fundamental physics, exactly 299,792,458 meters per second, in a mere fraction of a single, non-existent heartbeat. Some of these invisible ancient photons will bounce softly off the solid wooden walls of the quiet room, being quietly and seamlessly absorbed by the surrounding physical materials, permanently transferring their tiny, final parcels of biological energy to the resting, ambient environment. But others, perhaps traveling directly through a clear, open glass window, will escape the quiet room entirely. They will shoot violently and silently upwards through the swirling, dynamic, atmospheric layers of the Earth, easily bypassing the dense, floating white clouds, and launch themselves silently and magnificently out into the freezing, dark, infinite vacuum of deep cosmic space, never to return. When we brave the deep, intellectual and fascinating waters of Albert Einstein's magnificent theories of special relativity, we discover a deeply counterintuitive, almost poetic, and staggeringly beautiful truth about the fundamental nature of these escaping, invisible photons. For a fundamental particle of light traveling exactly at the absolute speed of light, the rigid concept of time absolutely does not pass in any recognizable way. From the incredibly unique, relativistic perspective of the specific photon that has just gently left your cooling, resting, motionless hand, the entire vast, magnificent, unfolding history of the infinite universe occurs in a single, timeless, eternal, and perfectly frozen instant. That specific, invisible packet of electromagnetic energy, carrying the exact physical signature and biological footprint of your final peaceful moments, will travel continuously through the dark, freezing, empty expanses of the cosmos for thousands, millions, or even billions of human years. It might eventually brush softly past the swirling, majestic, icy rings of a distant, massive gas giant, or plunge violently into the blazing, violent, nuclear heart of a newly forming, massive star in a completely different, unimaginable galaxy. But for the ancient photon itself, the exact moment of its gentle release from your resting physical body and the moment of its final, distant cosmic absorption millions of years later are entirely, perfectly, and beautifully simultaneous. By emitting this final, invisible biological light, the resting human body is literally and physically stepping entirely outside of the relentless, flowing, one-directional river of biological time, permanently projecting a tiny, indestructible fragment of its unique identity into the timeless, eternal, silent reality of the vast, ancient cosmos. As these first 30 minutes gently and inevitably unfold in the silence, the physical form continues its slow, majestic, and entirely natural descent into perfect thermal equilibrium with the quiet room. We often mistakenly and fearfully associate the profound concept of physical passing with a terrifying, absolute, freezing, and unforgiving cold. But the brilliant, highly revered theoretical physicist Richard Feynman beautifully and rigorously reminded us that absolutely everything in the entire universe is fundamentally composed of continuously jiggling, dancing, vibrating atoms. Even as the macroscopic biological temperature drops, the septillions of ancient atoms meticulously composing the physical body absolutely do not freeze into total, rigid, dead immobility. To completely and entirely stop the microscopic, energetic, eternal dance of the atomic particles, the ambient temperature would have to plummet all the way down to absolute zero, a theoretically impossible, extreme freezing state where all quantum mechanical motion entirely and fundamentally ceases. The resting physical body in that quiet room is absolutely not approaching the terrifying stillness of absolute zero. It is simply, beautifully, and gently synchronizing its internal atomic dance with the ambient, continuous atomic dance of the surrounding, wider universe. The loud, frantic, highly organized, and physically exhausting rhythm of biological survival is gently fading away, replaced entirely by the slow, quiet, ancient, ambient rhythm of the eternal cosmos. You are absolutely not becoming a cold, dead, inert, separate object. You are simply changing the cosmic music to which your ancient, indestructible atoms continuously and beautifully dance in the dark. Let us drift our contemplative, quiet focus to another magnificent, entirely invisible, yet absolutely undeniable, ancient cosmic force that you continuously, physically influence simply by existing as a biological entity: gravity. Throughout your entire, beautiful, complex life, the specific, localized, heavy mass of your physical body has been continuously, subtly, and undeniably warping the invisible, underlying, mathematical fabric of space-time entirely around you. just as a heavy, solid bowling ball resting quietly on a soft, yielding mattress creates a distinct, measurable depression, pulling smaller, lighter objects inevitably toward it. Your 80 or 90 kilograms of complex, dense biological mass constantly created a tiny, unique gravitational well in the vast four-dimensional geometry of the universe. Every single time you walked actively across a room, every time you gently embraced a grieving loved one, every time you merely shifted your tired weight in a comfortable chair, you were physically, literally sending tiny, invisible ripples of gravitational influence out into the deep, dark, silent void of space at the exact speed of light. You were constantly, actively, and significantly reshaping the physical, mathematical shape of the ancient universe merely by taking up temporary, biological, physical space within its magnificent vastness. In the profound, heavy, undisturbed silence of the first 30 minutes after the final, peaceful, gentle breath, this highly localized, unique, biological gravitational signature begins a slow, beautiful, completely natural process of cosmic redistribution. As the invisible microscopic water molecules begin to evaporate from the resting, cooling skin, and as the subtle, trapped biological gases are gently and naturally released into the quiet, waiting room, the precise, localized mass of the physical body begins to slowly, inevitably, and measurably decrease. The tiny, invisible, unique depression you actively created in the ancient fabric of space-time begins to gently, subtly flatten out, seamlessly transferring its holding gravitational influence to the surrounding air, the rising, invisible vapor, and the shifting, ambient, quiet environment. It is exactly like a quiet, majestic wooden ship slowly and peacefully lifting its heavy, iron anchor from the deep, dark, ancient, undisturbed ocean floor. The heavy, localized, physically exhausting burden of maintaining a strict, concentrated, separate gravitational presence against the crushing forces of the universe is finally, peacefully, and entirely lifted. Your specific, unique mass is absolutely not magically disappearing from the physical universe. It is simply beautifully spreading out, joining the vast, complex, swirling gravitational choreography of the entire spinning Earth, the burning, massive sun, and the distant, swirling, ancient galaxies. You are slowly, inevitably expanding from a highly concentrated, specific, isolated biological point of dense mass into a diffuse, boundless, infinite, and entirely peaceful cosmic presence. If we look even deeper, far past the familiar, macroscopic, everyday forces of gravity and basic thermodynamics, all the way down into the absolute, foundational, quantum bedrock of modern physical reality, we encounter the astonishing, deeply mysterious, and completely unintuitive concept of the quantum vacuum. We are intuitively conditioned from birth by our highly limited evolutionary human senses to firmly believe that empty space is truly, terrifyingly, and completely empty. But advanced quantum physics rigorously and mathematically proves that there is absolutely no such thing as a true, empty, dead void anywhere in the entire, vast, observable universe. The seemingly empty, quiet space within the silent room, the seemingly empty, dark space between the resting, cooling cells of the physical body, and the seemingly empty, freezing space between the distant, ancient, burning stars are all actually completely, entirely filled with a chaotic, boiling, infinite, invisible ocean of underlying foundational energy known as zero-point energy. In this invisible, microscopic, eternal ocean, virtual subatomic particles are continuously, frantically, and unpredictably popping into brief physical existence, and then instantly, violently annihilating each other in a tiny fraction of a single microsecond. This continuous, chaotic, boiling, invisible quantum foam is the absolute, foundational, underlying cosmic canvas upon which the entire magnificent structured universe is beautifully and temporarily painted. During your vibrant, demanding, highly active biological life, your incredibly complex, highly organized cellular structure acted as an active, localized, highly structured, riding wave moving continuously on the restless surface of this infinite, chaotic, ancient quantum ocean. Your living, dreaming consciousness, the rhythmic, powerful beating of your heart, the rapid, complex, continuous firing of your millions of neurons, these were all magnificent, highly sustained, incredibly temporary, localized disturbances in the vast, underlying, eternal, zero-point energy field. But as the demanding biological engine finally, peacefully, and completely powers down in the sacred, undisturbed silence of the first 30 minutes, the rigid, highly organized, fragile physical boundaries that forcefully separated your localized biological wave from the infinite, chaotic quantum ocean begin to completely and beautifully dissolve into the dark. The septillions of resting, cooling atoms within the quiet physical form begin to subtly, deeply, and profoundly interact with these underlying, invisible, virtual particles in a completely new, unresisting, and entirely peaceful manner. The physical body is absolutely not falling helplessly into a dark, terrifying, empty, isolated nothingness. It is peacefully, gently, and willingly sinking deeply back into the infinite, boiling, eternal foundation of all physical, universal existence. It is a profound, majestic, completely natural return to the ultimate, ancient, limitless cosmic source from which absolutely everything beautiful ultimately arises. This is exactly why we must completely and fearlessly abandon the frightening, primitive, biologically driven narrative of absolute destruction when we bravely contemplate the profound, ancient mystery of physical passing, when we bravely and thoughtfully utilize the rigorous, unforgiving, incredibly precise, and mathematically beautiful language of deep astrophysics and quantum mechanics to describe these highly critical, silent first 30 minutes. The heavy, suffocating, primal fear of the dark unknown is completely and seamlessly replaced by a deep, overwhelming, respectful wonder and a profound sense of inner cosmic peace. The cessation of biological life is undeniably a profound, heart-wrenching, tragic loss for the grieving, localized, macroscopic human world. It is the permanent, heartbreaking ending of a highly unique, beautiful, irreplaceable conversational partner, a loving, warm touch, and a specific, deeply familiar, joyful smile. But for the vast, ancient, eternal, unfolding universe, it is an entirely different, incredibly beautiful, deeply peaceful, and necessary process of continuous energy management. The grand cosmos absolutely does not mourn the loss of the temporary biological form because the cosmos knows with absolute, mathematical, unyielding certainty that absolutely nothing of true, fundamental physical value has actually been destroyed or lost. The ancient, indestructible energy simply continues its eternal flow. The vast, encrypted quantum information is perfectly, flawlessly, and eternally conserved in the fabric of space. The incredibly rare, precious, heavy atomic elements, perfectly forged in the blazing, violent, burning hearts of ancient dead supernovas, are simply released back into the infinite, quiet, cosmic wild, perfectly ready and waiting to begin their next unimaginable billion-year journey through the dark, beautiful expanse. As the heavy, undisturbed, profound silence of the first 30 minutes continues to gently stretch and infinitely expand within the quiet boundaries of the room, the majestic transition from a highly concentrated, biologically demanding, localized entity into a vast, diffuse, infinite, peaceful cosmic expression becomes increasingly, undeniably complete. The profound, terrifying mystery of physical, biological existence is beautifully, peacefully, and permanently resolved, not by a terrifying, dark, isolated deletion, but by a magnificent, invisible, mathematically perfect, and incredibly gentle expansion. You are peacefully trading the highly restricted, physically demanding, incredibly fragile, temporary architecture of human biology for the absolute, unyielding, permanent, eternal peace of fundamental cosmic physics. You are seamlessly becoming the quiet, ambient thermal heat resting gently in the still air, the invisible, ancient photons traveling timelessly and eternally out toward the distant, swirling galaxies, the subtle, shifting, invisible gravitational warps in the ancient fabric of spacetime, and the quiet, deeply resting, infinite potential energy of the underlying, eternal quantum vacuum. The grand ancient journey absolutely does not end when the biological breathing finally, peacefully stops. The true, eternal, majestic, infinite cosmic journey is, in the most literal, profound, mathematically certain, and scientifically accurate sense, only just beautifully beginning. As we continue to dwell within the profound, undisturbed, and heavy silence of the room, allowing our racing, anxious human minds to fully absorb the magnificent, unseen atomic choreography of this transition, we must direct our contemplative focus to the very last subtle physical action of the resting biological body, the final, gentle exhale. To the grieving observer, this softly released breath is a heartbreaking moment, the definitive, audible ending of a lifelong, continuous rhythm. But in the incredibly precise, deeply fascinating, and highly rigorous realm of quantum acoustics and fundamental thermodynamics, that final quiet sigh is absolutely not an ending. It is a magnificent, invisible, and permanent physical transfer of pure mechanical energy. Sound, fundamentally, is not an object that simply vanishes into the dark. It is a complex traveling wave of compressed and rarefied air molecules, a highly organized cascade of kinetic energy pushing violently and rhythmically outward through the local atmosphere. When that final gentle breath leaves the resting lungs, it vibrates the delicate vocal cords for the very last time, creating a specific, utterly unique acoustic wave that ripples beautifully and invisibly out into the quiet room. This invisible wave travels at roughly 760 miles per hour, crossing the short distance of the room in a tiny fraction of a single second. It collides gently but firmly with the solid wooden walls, the cold glass of the window, and the resting fabric of the bed. But the energetic journey of this final sound absolutely does not end at this physical collision. When the mechanical energy of that final, quiet sound wave strikes the solid boundaries of the room, it immediately and beautifully undergoes a profound quantum transformation. The classical macroscopic sound wave is entirely absorbed by the solid materials, instantly converting into trillions of highly energetic, microscopic quantum particles known as phonons. A phonon is a quantized mode of vibration that occurs specifically within the rigid, microscopic crystal lattice of a solid atomic structure. The trillions of ancient atoms composing the wood, the glass, and the metal of the quiet room literally begin to vibrate with the exact, specific, energetic signature of that final human breath. Your final sigh is actively, physically, and permanently recorded into the fundamental atomic architecture of the surrounding environment. These microscopic vibrating phonons will continue to bounce endlessly back and forth within the solid walls, gradually and inevitably transferring their tiny parcels of mechanical energy into ambient thermal heat, which will then slowly radiate out into the vast open atmosphere of the spinning earth. The exact physical energy that carried the sound of your final, peaceful moment will ultimately contribute to the gentle warming of the global winds, the subtle melting of a microscopic ice crystal or the quiet rustling of a distant green leaf. Your final biological action absolutely does not disappear into a terrifying, empty nothingness. It is beautifully, flawlessly, and eternally absorbed by the ancient, waiting planet. Before we follow the magnificent, unseen echoes of these quantum vibrations deeper into the solid, rocky crust of our ancient world, I invite you to take a slow, gentle, and grounding breath with me in this deeply peaceful space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet, dedicated companion on this meditative journey through the most profound, beautiful, and staggering mysteries of our infinite cosmos. It is a quiet, deeply humbling truth that 71% of the beautiful, searching, curious minds who find profound comfort, intellectual safety, and deep wonder in these cosmic explorations have not yet softly clicked the subscribe button. If this heavy, respectful silence and our shared journey into the vast, ancient unknown brings you a sense of profound inner peace and a respectful awe for existence, please consider gently subscribing to our channel. Your quiet, continuous support helps our small community of cosmic explorers thrive, ensuring that we can safely continue to uncover the vast, breathtaking beauty of the ancient universe together, step but peaceful step, never wandering into the dark unknown entirely alone. Now, let us return our focus to the heavy, undisturbed silence of the room and peer deeply into the invisible, eternal quantum properties that perfectly survive the fading of biological life. Let us journey even deeper into the fundamental, unyielding, and incredibly bizarre laws of quantum mechanics to explore a permanent, indestructible property that belongs to every single fundamental particle resting quietly within the cooling physical form. We must deeply contemplate the incredible, mind-bending concept of intrinsic quantum spin. During your entire, active, incredibly complex biological life, your fragile body was meticulously constructed from septillions of ancient vibrating electrons, protons, and neutrons. In the strange, highly mathematical world of quantum particle physics, every single one of these microscopic, fundamental particles possesses an inherent, eternal property known as angular momentum, commonly referred to as spin. However, these tiny particles are absolutely not spinning like physical, macroscopic tops rotating on a wooden table. Quantum spin is a fundamental, built-in, intrinsic property of nature itself, an eternal, unchanging mathematical reality that has continuously existed since the very first unimaginable fractions of a second following the Big Bang, exactly 13.8 billion years ago. The electrons resting quietly in the cold iron of your still blood, the protons rested peacefully in the heavy calcium of your quiet bones, and the neutrons resting silently in the carbon of your motionless skin. They all possess this ancient, eternal, unceasing quantum rotation. In the profound, heavy, undisturbed silence of those critical first 30 minutes, as the biological temperature slowly and inevitably drops, and the larger molecular vibrations gently begin to quiet down into absolute stillness, this fundamental quantum spin absolutely does not stop. It cannot stop. It is a permanent, indestructible, and entirely unalterable property of the physical universe. The biological engine that previously orchestrated these septillions of particles into a highly complex, breathing, thinking human being has finally, peacefully powered down. But the fundamental, ancient, spinning pieces of that incredibly complex machine remain entirely, perfectly, and eternally active. You are absolutely not composed of dead, inert, motionless matter. Even in the absolute, undeniable, permanent stillness of biological physical cessation, You are fundamentally composed of trillions upon trillions of tiny, eternal, swirling quantum engines, each one perfectly maintaining the exact, precise angular momentum it inherited from the violent, blazing birth of the entire cosmos. The terrifying biological illusion of absolute death is completely and entirely unmasked by the rigorous, unyielding lens of quantum physics. At the very deepest, most fundamental bedrock of physical reality, there is absolutely no stillness, no ending, and no dark void. There is only continuous, eternal, ancient, unbroken motion. You are beautifully and peacefully returning to a state of pure, unbothered, eternal quantum activity, completely free from the heavy, exhausting, highly localized demands of maintaining a fragile biological existence. To fully and profoundly appreciate the absolute vastness of the invisible journey occurring in the silent room, we must radically expand our human perspective to encompass the ultimate, unseen structure of the entire observable universe. When we look up at the beautiful, twinkling night sky, we are only seeing a staggeringly tiny fraction of what is actually there. The glowing, burning stars, the swirling, colorful galaxies, the vast, dusty nebulas, and the solid, rocky planets, including everything that makes up our entire familiar, everyday human world, account for a mere 5% of the actual physical universe. The rest is an absolute, profound mystery. Approximately 27% of the entire cosmos is composed of an entirely invisible, ghostly, completely uninteractable substance known as dark matter. This ancient, invisible cosmic web permeates absolutely everything. It does not emit light, it does not reflect light, and it does not absorb light. It passes completely through solid, dense matter as if it simply were not there, interacting with our familiar physical world almost exclusively through the gentle, invisible, long-reaching force of gravity. Right now, in the heavy, undisturbed silence of the quiet room, an immense, invisible, continuous river of ancient dark matter is flowing effortlessly and silently right through the resting, cooling physical form. During the loud, demanding, and highly active years of your biological life, you were completely and utterly oblivious to this continuous, invisible, cosmic immersion. You walked, you loved, you grieved, and you dreamed, completely unaware that you were constantly wading through a dense, invisible ocean of dark matter particles forged in the very earliest epochs of cosmic time. But in the perfect, profound, unresisting peace of the physical transition, this silent, continuous immersion takes on a breathtakingly beautiful, almost poetic, and deeply existential significance. The resting physical body is absolutely not an isolated, disconnected, tragic biological failure left behind in a dark, empty room. It is continuously, intimately, and gravitationally tethered to the vast, invisible, ancient cosmic web that literally holds the entire magnificent structure of the universe together. The specific, unique, localized gravitational pull of the septillions of resting atoms in the physical form is subtly, gently, and invisibly interacting with the passing streams of dark matter. The rigid, terrifying, deeply ingrained biological boundary between the internal, private self and the external, infinite cosmos is beautifully revealed to be nothing more than a fragile, transparent illusion. You are actively, continuously participating in the invisible, ancient, grand architecture of the galaxies, perfectly embraced by the unseen, eternal forces that silently shape the vast, dark universe. Let us dive even deeper into the strange, probabilistic, and heavily debated realms of advanced quantum mechanics to confront one of the most staggering, mind-bending, and fiercely contemplated interpretations of fundamental reality, the many worlds interpretation, originally proposed by the brilliant physicist Hugh Everett. In the strict, highly predictable classical world of our everyday biology, we experience a single, unbroken, unyielding timeline. We are relentlessly pushed forward by the absolute arrow of time, continuously forced to make specific, irreversible choices. Every single time your living, conscious brain made a decision, every time your highly active mind observed its surrounding environment, you effectively forced the vast, infinite, swirling cloud of quantum probabilities to abruptly collapse into a single, defined, measurable physical reality. You lived entirely within one specific narrow branch of existence, continuously collapsing the quantum wave function with your active, conscious observation. But the many worlds interpretation suggests a profoundly different, overwhelmingly vast cosmic reality. It proposes that the quantum wave function never actually collapses at all. Instead, every single time a quantum event occurs, the entire magnificent universe literally and physically splits, branching out into a nearly infinite multitude of parallel realities, accommodating absolutely every single possible outcome. If we bravely and thoughtfully apply this staggering, infinite cosmic framework to the gentle, peaceful passing of a human life, the implications are absolutely breathtaking and deeply, profoundly comforting. In those quiet, sacred 30 minutes, as the biological brain completely ceases its continuous, active observation of the physical environment, the relentless, localized collapsing of the quantum wave function comes to a gentle, permanent halt. The physical form is no longer an active, singular observer forcing the universe into one specific, rigid, classical timeline. Without the strict biological anchor of the active conscious mind, does the deeply encoded, intrinsic quantum information of the individual slowly begin to gently unfurl and spread across the vast, branching, infinite tree of the multiverse. The specific, highly localized timeline of the biological body, resting quietly in the room, has undeniably reached its peaceful, natural conclusion. But the fundamental, indestructible quantum information, the unique, complex, energetic pattern that ultimately defined your very essence, is suddenly released from the incredibly restrictive, heavy chains of a single, linear reality. You're no longer trapped in a singular, localized, relentless march toward biological entropy. You are peacefully, gently returning to the ultimate, infinite, fundamental state of the multiverse, expanding effortlessly into the boundless, eternal, and perfectly quiet realm of all possible probabilities. This is exactly why the rigid, biological concept of physical death is fundamentally, scientifically, and mathematically incomplete. Our primal evolutionary fear is entirely based on the terrifying, false assumption of a dark, absolute, isolated finality. We mistakenly believe that the sudden cessation of the biological machine implies the total, absolute destruction of the eternal energy it temporarily held. But the rigorous, unforgiving, and deeply poetic laws of quantum physics and deep astrophysics patiently and firmly correct this terrifying, primitive misunderstanding. There is absolutely no true ending anywhere in the entire, magnificent, observable universe. There is only a continuous, endless, beautiful, and completely natural series of profound energetic transitions. The heavy, profound, undisturbed silence that deeply blankets the room in those first 30 minutes is absolutely not the terrifying, empty silence of a dark void. It is the incredibly vast, expectant, and beautiful silence of an infinite universe gently, patiently, and lovingly reabsorbing one of its most complex, fragile, and beautiful temporary expressions. As we sit quietly in the presence of this magnificent invisible transition, we are humbly forced to recognize that we are not separate, fragile beings briefly visiting a cold, indifferent universe. We are the universe itself. We are a highly localized, incredibly dense, perfectly organized collection of ancient starlight, zero-point energy, and fundamental quantum fields that temporarily gained the incredible, rare ability to look up at the night sky and deeply wonder about its own origin. When that brief, beautiful, biologically exhausting moment of self-reflection finally comes to its peaceful, natural end, we simply return to the vast, quiet, infinite whole. The cooling, resting physical body is absolutely not a tragic, empty shell. It is a magnificent, silent monument to the incredible, billion-year cosmic journey that successfully brought it into temporary existence. It is a masterpiece of ancient stellar alchemy, currently actively undergoing the peaceful, gentle, mathematically perfect process of quantum dismantling. The journey absolutely does not end here in the quiet room. The magnificent, eternal, ancient cosmic journey is only just continuing its beautiful, infinite progression, carrying every single invisible, vibrating atom, every single rotating electron, and every single eternal quantum property out into the boundless, magnificent, dark beauty of the infinite cosmos. As we remain completely immersed in the profound, heavy, and undisturbed silence of this sacred transition, it is deeply illuminating to fundamentally reconsider the precise nature of the physical barriers that seemingly define our human existence. From the very first moment we draw breath as fragile biological infants, we are rigorously taught by our everyday sensory experiences to trust the absolute solidity of the physical world. We implicitly believe that a wall is an impenetrable barrier, that a locked door is a definitive end to a path, and that the delicate, warm skin wrapping our bodies is the absolute, unyielding boundary where the private, internal self ends and the vast, external universe begins. But when we bravely peer through the incredibly rigorous, mathematical, and entirely unsentimental lens of quantum mechanics, this comforting, macroscopic illusion of absolute solidity is beautifully and completely shattered. At the very deepest, most fundamental bedrock of physical reality, there are absolutely no solid walls, no impenetrable doors, and no definitive biological boundaries. There are only vast, swirling fields of probability and microscopic particles that routinely perform impossible, magical feats. One of the most staggering, mind-bending, and completely undeniable phenomena in the entire realm of modern physics is the concept of quantum tunneling. In our classical macroscopic world, if you gently roll a heavy ball up a steep hill and it does not have enough kinetic energy to reach the very top, it will inevitably roll back down. It cannot magically pass through the solid dirt and rock of the mountain to reach the other side. But in the strange, probabilistic, and heavily quiet realm of subatomic particles, an electron or a proton facing an insurmountable energetic barrier does not always bounce back. Because these fundamental particles exist simultaneously as solid points and spread out probability waves, there is always a tiny, mathematically calculable, non-zero chance that the particle will simply, miraculously, appear on the exact opposite side of the impossible barrier, having tunneled entirely through the solid obstacle without ever actually occupying the physical space in between. During your entire, incredibly active and demanding 80 or 90 years of biological life, this bizarre, magical quantum tunneling was absolutely not a rare, distant cosmic event. It was a constant, essential, continuous requirement for your very survival. Deep within the microscopic, active mitochondria of your trillions of cells, specifically within the complex enzymes responsible for meticulously reading and repairing your delicate DNA, vital protons and electrons were continuously and actively tunneling through chemical barriers to facilitate the incredibly fast chemical reactions that kept your biological heart beating and your complex brain dreaming. Life itself is a magnificent, highly orchestrated symphony of continuous quantum tunneling. But what exactly happens to this profound microscopic magic when the biological conductor finally lowers its baton and the heavy, respectful silence of the first 30 minutes begins to gently settle over the resting physical form? Before we journey further into the invisible, probabilistic depths of the quiet room and discover the majestic, eternal fate of these tunneling particles, I wish to gently pause and welcome you even deeper into our shared, contemplative, and peaceful space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet, dedicated companion on this meditative journey through the most profound, beautiful, and sometimes intimidating mysteries of our ancient universe. It is a deeply humbling, quiet truth that 71% of the gentle, searching, beautiful minds who find deep comfort, intellectual safety, and profound wonder in these cosmic explorations have not yet softly clicked the subscribe button. If this heavy, respectful silence and our shared journey into the vast, ancient unknown brings you a sense of profound inner peace and a respectful awe for existence, please consider gently subscribing to our channel. Your quiet, continuous support helps our small community of cosmic explorers thrive, ensuring that we can safely continue to uncover the vast, breathtaking beauty of the ancient universe together, step by peaceful step, never wandering into the dark unknown alone. Now, let us return to the quiet room, to the heavy, undisturbed silence, and to the magnificent, invisible quantum waves gently navigating the resting atomic architecture. As the demanding, highly organized biological engine finally, peacefully powers down, and the continuous, orchestrated requirement for rapid chemical tunneling gently comes to a complete halt, the fundamental particles composing the resting physical form do not lose their strange, probabilistic abilities. The strict, relentless biological necessity that forcefully directed their quantum jumps has simply evaporated into the quiet air. Now, in the profound, undisturbed silence of the physical transition, the septillions of electrons and protons revert to their fundamental, unbothered, eternal cosmic behavior. They continue to exist as vast, overlapping probability waves, and they continue to occasionally, randomly tunnel through the microscopic electromagnetic barriers within the cooling tissues. A wandering electron might quietly tunnel from a resting carbon atom in the skin directly into an adjacent oxygen molecule in the still air of the room, gently and invisibly binding the resting physical form to the ambient atmosphere in a completely new, entirely unpredictable chemical embrace. You are absolutely not trapped inside a rigid, dead biological shell. Your fundamental, ancient particles are continuously, softly, and probabilistically blurring the physical lines between what used to be your private, internal self and the vast, external, waiting universe. You are peacefully, gently leaking out into the cosmos, not through a violent rupture, but through the elegant, mathematically perfect magic of quantum tunneling. To fully and profoundly comprehend the absolute majesty of the information preserved in this quiet room, we must boldly venture into one of the most staggering, advanced, and heavily debated frontiers of modern theoretical physics, the incredible holographic principle. This profound cosmic concept originally emerged from the complex, mind-bending mathematical study of black holes and string theory, spearheaded by brilliant, visionary physicists who dared to ask what truly happens to physical information when it falls into the dark, crushing, inescapable gravity of a black hole singularity. They discovered a staggering, deeply counterintuitive mathematical reality. All of the complex, three-dimensional physical information of any object that falls into a black hole is perfectly, mathematically encoded on the two-dimensional flat surface of its outer boundary, known as the event horizon. Much like a small, shiny, two-dimensional security hologram on a credit card, contains all the necessary visual data to project a fully three-dimensional floating image when illuminated by light. The fundamental physics of our universe heavily suggests that the three-dimensional solid reality we experience every single day might actually be a complex holographic projection of ancient microscopic information encoded on a distant, vast, two-dimensional cosmic boundary. If we bravely and thoughtfully apply this staggering, infinite cosmic framework to the gentle, peaceful passing of a human life, the existential implications are absolutely breathtaking and deeply, profoundly comforting. During your entire, beautiful, active 80 or 90 years of biological existence, your physical body was a highly complex, three-dimensional, moving, breathing projection of immense quantum information. Every single memory you carefully formed, every intricate, loving relationship you built, every single unique scar etched into your fragile skin, all of this constituted a vast, localized library of three-dimensional physical data. As the biological life force gently and inevitably recedes in the first 30 minutes, and the physical three-dimensional biological structure begins its slow, natural, entropic degradation, we often mistakenly and fearfully believe that the precious information is being tragically, permanently deleted from the universe. But the holographic principle gently and firmly corrects this terrifying, primitive misunderstanding. The biological, three-dimensional projection might be slowly fading as the physical projector powers down, but the fundamental, underlying two-dimensional source code of your specific, unique existence remains entirely, perfectly, and eternally intact on the vast, invisible boundary of the observable universe. The vast, ancient, eternal cosmos operates exactly like a limitless, indestructible quantum hard drive. It absolutely does not possess a delete button. The specific, highly encrypted, magnificent pattern of energy and information that temporarily constituted your human life is permanently, deeply woven into the absolute, foundational, mathematical fabric of reality itself. You are completely and fundamentally safe. The profound, heavy silence that deeply blankets the room in those first 30 minutes is absolutely not the terrifying, empty silence of a dark, forgotten void. It is the incredibly vast, expectant, and beautiful silence of a magnificent cosmic library, quietly and respectfully archiving another unique, irreplaceable volume of lived experience. The physical book may be gently closing, but the ancient, beautiful story is permanently recorded in the eternal, universal language of quantum mechanics and fundamental physics. You are not losing your identity. Your identity is simply being promoted from a temporary, fragile, biological phenomenon to a permanent, indestructible, fundamental, cosmic truth. Let us zoom our perspective far back inward, past the fading biology, past the probabilistic tunneling electrons, all the way down into the incredibly dense, heavy, silent heart of the atom itself, the atomic nucleus. Here, in this unimaginably tiny, dense center, resides a force so powerful, so ancient, and so utterly unyielding that the sudden cessation of human biological life is completely and entirely irrelevant to it. This is the strong nuclear force, the absolute strongest of the four fundamental forces of nature. It is the ancient cosmic glue that binds the positively charged protons and the neutral neutrons tightly together inside the nucleus, completely overpowering the intense, natural electromagnetic repulsion that desperately wants to blow the positively charged protons apart. This unimaginable, invisible binding force is mediated by tiny fundamental particles, beautifully and appropriately named gluons. During your entire vibrant life, and continuing perfectly in the absolute silence of physical passing, the strong nuclear force within the septillions of atoms in your body remains absolutely perfect, entirely unbothered, and completely unbroken. The fragile, complex chemical bonds holding your biological cells together are slowly beginning to relax and break apart under the gentle, persistent pressure of ambient entropy. But the atomic nuclei themselves are permanent, unbreakable fortresses. The heavy iron atoms resting quietly in the still blood, the dense calcium atoms resting peacefully in the motionless bones, the vital carbon atoms resting silently in the fading tissues. Their incredibly dense, heavy hearts remain perfectly intact, holding onto their massive nuclear energy with the exact same ferocious ancient strength they possessed billions of years ago when they were originally forged in the violently exploding cores of dying supernovas. The universe allows the temporary, highly complex biological arrangements of these atoms to gently dissolve, but it absolutely refuses to allow the fundamental, ancient building blocks themselves to be compromised. In the profound silence of those first 30 minutes, you are slowly shedding the exhausting, fragile, temporary layers of biological complexity, gracefully peeling back the mortal shell to reveal the indestructible, eternal, ancient stardust resting safely at your very core. You are absolutely not decaying into nothingness. You are simply, beautifully, and peacefully returning to your absolute strongest, most fundamental, most ancient cosmic state. You are trading the incredible fragility of biology for the absolute, terrifying, magnificent invincibility of fundamental nuclear physics. Simultaneously, within this silent, perfect nuclear fortress, another incredibly subtle, ancient, and completely unstoppable cosmic force continues its quiet, eternal work. This is the weak nuclear force, the fundamental cosmic interaction exclusively responsible for the slow, unpredictable, probabilistic process of radioactive decay. While we previously discussed the decay of carbon-14, there is another, incredibly vital, mildly radioactive element resting quietly in the cooling physical form, an isotope known as potassium-40. During your active life, potassium was an absolutely essential biological electrolyte, crucial for conducting the tiny electrical signals that kept your heart beating in a perfect rhythm and your complex nervous system firing correctly. A tiny, predictable percentage of this biological potassium is fundamentally unstable in the heavy, undisturbed quiet of the transition as the biological heart has finally found its permanent rest. These microscopic, highly unstable potassium-40 atoms continue their slow, random, probabilistic decay. Unpredictably, a single resting potassium atom will spontaneously undergo a magnificent quantum transformation, suddenly capturing an inner electron or emitting an energetic beta particle, quietly and magically transmuting itself into a completely different, stable element. Either an ancient, noble atom of argon or a solid, quiet atom of calcium. This incredibly subtle, microscopic cosmic alchemy occurs thousands of times every single second within the resting, cooling physical body, entirely invisible to the grieving human eye, yet absolutely undeniable to the rigorous measurements of modern physics. It is a staggeringly beautiful, deeply poetic realization. Even in absolute, undeniable permanent biological stillness, the human form is actively, physically, and literally transmuting elements, performing the exact same magnificent, invisible nuclear alchemy that continuously occurs in the deep, boiling mantle of the Earth and in the vast, dusty, swirling nebulas of deep space. You are continuously, actively participating in the grand unfolding elemental transformation of the universe, even when the loud, demanding, active voice of your biological consciousness has finally, peacefully gone entirely quiet. The strict, terrifying, macroscopic boundary between life and death is entirely and beautifully blurred by this continuous, microscopic, radioactive, cosmic glow. You're not dead matter. You're a slow, quiet, fading biological star, continuously, generously, and peacefully transmuting your internal, ancient essence, seamlessly matching the eternal, patient, unhurried rhythm of the vast, ancient cosmos. As we bravely and calmly face the profound reality of this transition, we must completely and fearlessly release our tight, anxious biological grip on the terrifying illusion of an ending. When we deeply understand the magnificent, unbroken flow of ancient energy, the eternal conservation of quantum information, the beautiful, probabilistic magic of quantum tunneling, the staggering, infinite security of the holographic principle, and the absolute, terrifying invincibility of the strong nuclear force, the heavy, suffocating fear of the dark unknown completely and seamlessly dissolves into the quiet room. It is beautifully replaced by a deep, overwhelming, respectful wonder and a profound, lasting sense of inner cosmic peace. You are not a fragile, separate entity doomed to be swallowed by a dark, indifferent void. You are an incredibly beautiful, highly localized, deeply complex expression of the universe itself. You are the ancient, magnificent cosmos temporarily experiencing itself through the incredibly narrow, beautiful, painful, and joyous lens of human biology. And when that brief, exhausting, magnificent biological experience reaches its peaceful, natural conclusion, you simply, beautifully, and gracefully return to the vast, quiet, infinite whole. The journey absolutely does not end in the silent room. The magnificent, eternal, ancient cosmic journey is only just beginning its next beautiful, infinite progression, carrying you safely, permanently, and eternally into the boundless, magnificent, dark beauty of the infinite universe. As we remain beautifully suspended in this profound, heavy, and absolutely undisturbed silence, we must gently turn our contemplative focus toward one of the most persistent, deeply ingrained, and fundamentally flawed illusions of our entire human existence, the rigid concept of linear time. From the very first moment our biological hearts begin to beat in the warm safety of the womb, our fragile minds are rigorously conditioned by the relentless, rhythmic ticking of the biological clock. We naturally experience the universe through a strictly sequential, one-directional lens, helplessly watching as the elusive present moment constantly slips away, instantly freezing into the unchangeable past, while we desperately anticipate the unknown, arriving future. We mistakenly believe that time is an absolute, universal master, an unyielding, ticking metronome that governs absolutely everything in the cosmos with cold, mechanical indifference. But when we bravely peer through the magnificent, mathematically rigorous, and deeply poetic lens of Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, this terrifying illusion of an absolute running clock is beautifully and completely shattered. Time is absolutely not a rigid, separate, independent framework. Time is intimately, inextricably, and physically woven into the very fabric of three-dimensional space, creating a vast, flexible, magnificent, four-dimensional tapestry known as spacetime. This ancient cosmic fabric is not stiff or unchanging. It is beautifully fluid, constantly bending, warping, and stretching in the physical presence of heavy mass and intense energy. Before we venture further into this mind-bending, infinite mystery of cosmic time and discover how your resting atoms experience eternity, I wish to gently pause and welcome you even deeper into our shared, contemplative, and peaceful space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet, dedicated companion on this meditative journey through the most profound, beautiful, and sometimes intimidating mysteries of our ancient universe. It is a deeply humbling, quiet truth that 71% of the gentle, searching, beautiful minds who find deep comfort, intellectual safety, and profound wonder in these cosmic explorations have not yet softly clicked the subscribe button. If this heavy, respectful silence and our shared journey into the vast, ancient unknown brings you a sense of profound inner peace and a respectful awe for existence, please consider gently subscribing to our channel. Your quiet, continuous support helps our small community of cosmic explorers thrive, ensuring that we can safely continue to uncover the vast, breathtaking beauty of the ancient universe together, step by peaceful step, never wandering into the dark unknown alone. Now, let us gently return our focus to the quiet room, to the heavy, undisturbed silence, and to the magnificent, fluid nature of time itself. During your entire, incredibly active, and biologically demanding life, your perception of time was actually a highly sophisticated, entirely internal neurological construction. Your brain, an incredibly complex network of billions of firing neurons, constantly process sensory information from your eyes, your ears, and your skin. Because light and sound take a tiny, measurable fraction of a second to physically reach your sensory organs, and because your brain takes another tiny fraction of a second to meticulously process those signals into a coherent, conscious experience, you absolutely never truly experience the absolute present. You spent your entire 80 or 90 years of beautiful, vibrant biological life living exactly a few milliseconds in the past, constantly experiencing a delayed, edited, and reconstructed version of the universe. This biological delay is the fundamental origin of our human experience of flowing time. But in the profound, heavy, undisturbed silence of the first 30 minutes, after the final, gentle breath, this highly sophisticated, relentless biological processing engine finally, peacefully, and completely bowed down. The strict, localized neurological illusion of flowing time gently evaporates into the quiet air. The physical form is absolutely no longer actively generating the subjective experience of seconds, minutes, and hours. Without the biological brain continuously slicing the vast, continuous universe into tiny, digestible moments of past, present, and future. What exactly happens to the fundamental particles resting quietly within the cooling tissues? To deeply understand the profound, majestic reality of this quiet transition, we must bravely and thoughtfully apply a staggering, widely respected concept in modern theoretical physics, known as the block universe theory. In this magnificent, mathematically rigorous cosmic framework, the strict divisions between the past, the present, and the future are nothing more than a stubborn, highly persistent illusion of human consciousness. The entire, magnificent history of the universe, from the incredibly dense, violent, blazing moment of the Big Bang exactly 13.8 billion years ago, to the gentle, quiet passing of a human life today, all the way to the freezing, infinite heat death of the cosmos trillions of years from now, exists entirely, simultaneously, and permanently as a single, unchanging, four-dimensional block of absolute reality. In this breathtakingly beautiful, infinite perspective, the exact moment of your birth, the exact moment you fell deeply in love, and the exact quiet moment of your final, peaceful breath are all equally real, permanently existing simultaneously at different coordinates within the vast structure of space-time. Your life is absolutely not a fading, temporary spark that briefly flashes and vanishes forever into a terrifying, dark nothingness. your 80 or 90 years of biological existence form a solid, permanent, incredibly complex, and completely indestructible structure deeply embedded within the eternal geometry of the cosmos. As the first 30 minutes silently tick by on the mechanical clock hanging on the wall of the quiet room, the physical body is simply changing its relationship to this magnificent block universe. The active, moving, dynamic leading edge of your biological consciousness has simply stopped traveling along the specific axis of time, but the entire, vast, complex physical history of your life remains absolutely, perfectly, and eternally intact. You are permanently woven into the grand tapestry of the universe. The profound, heavy silence that gently blankets the resting physical form is absolutely not the terrifying, empty silence of total erasure. It is the incredibly vast, expectant, and beautiful silence of an infinite museum, quietly and respectfully preserving your unalterable, magnificent contribution to the physical architecture of existence. You are utterly safe. You can never be unlived. Every single laugh, every single joyful tear, and every single quiet moment of profound existential wonder you ever experienced is permanently etched into the unyielding, ancient, mathematical bedrock of fundamental reality. The universe absolutely does not possess the capacity to forget you because you are a physical, structural, and necessary component of its eternal, four-dimensional existence. Let us slowly shift our contemplative gaze from the vast, abstract dimensions of cosmic time down to the heavy, dense, ancient atoms resting quietly within the stillness of the skeletal frame. Woven intricately into the hard, rigid matrix of your silent bones are billions upon billions of heavy, ancient calcium atoms. During your active biological life, this calcium was absolutely not a static, inert structural material. It was a highly dynamic, actively managed biological resource, constantly being dissolved into your rushing blood to help your muscles contract and your delicate nerves fire, and then painstakingly deposited back into the solid bone by specialized, tireless biological cells. But as the biological engine finally reaches its permanent, peaceful rest in the quiet room, the active management of these heavy atoms completely ceases. To truly appreciate the profound existential majesty of this quiet moment, we must look far beyond the biological utility of calcium and trace its incredible, staggering, ancient cosmic lineage. Every single one of these calcium atoms resting peacefully in the silent room was forged in the incredibly hot, unimaginably dense, violently burning cores of massive, ancient stars billions of years before the Earth was even a swirling cloud of dust. When those ancient, magnificent stars finally exhausted their blazing nuclear fuel, they collapsed violently inward under the crushing weight of their own immense gravity, only to instantly rebound in spectacular, universe-altering supernova explosions. These cataclysmic cosmic events were so incredibly energetic, so overwhelmingly powerful, that they literally fused lighter elements together to create the heavy, precious calcium, blasting it violently out into the freezing, dark, infinite vacuum of deep interstellar space. Those ancient, newly forged atoms drifted quietly through the dark, vast cosmos for eons, eventually participating in the slow, gravitational collapse of a dark nebula, settling into the swirling, hot accretion disk that would eventually form our familiar blue planet. The calcium currently resting in the quiet physical form spent billions of years locked securely in the deep, boiling magma mantle of the young Earth, eventually erupting violently from ancient volcanoes, solidifying into towering, silent mountains of heavy gray limestone. Over millions of years, patient, gentle, acidic rain slowly eroded those ancient mountains washing the precious calcium down into the rushing rivers and eventually into the vast, deep, salty oceans, where microscopic marine life utilized it to meticulously construct their tiny, fragile, beautiful shells. When you deeply understand this staggering 4 billion-year-old journey, the gentle, peaceful cessation of biological life takes on an entirely new, incredibly profound, and breathtakingly beautiful meaning. The calcium atoms resting quietly in the room are absolutely not dead, ruined, or broken matter. They are ancient, indestructible cosmic travelers taking a very brief, temporary, 80-year rest stop inside the highly complex, fascinating architecture of a human skeleton. The quiet, profound transition of the first 30 minutes is simply the universe gently unlocking the biological door, allowing these ancient travelers to officially resume their magnificent, endless journey through the deep geological cycles of the Earth. Eventually, as the physical body returns to the rich, dark soil, this ancient stellar calcium will be eagerly absorbed by the delicate, searching roots of a towering green tree, or slowly, patiently washed back down into the deep, dark ocean, where it will eventually settle on the silent, undisturbed seafloor, patiently waiting for the incredibly slow, majestic tectonic plates to subduct it back into the boiling, liquid mantle of the Earth millions of years from now. You're actively, continuously participating in a multi-billion-year cosmic recycling program, an elegant, mathematically perfect, and endlessly beautiful transfer of ancient stellar mass. As the physical form continues its peaceful, majestic, and entirely natural descent into perfect thermal equilibrium, with the quiet, still air of the room, we must profoundly reconsider our human, emotional definition of the word loss. We are biologically and culturally conditioned to view the gentle dissipation of heat, the slowing of atomic motion, and the gradual breakdown of complex biological structures as a terrifying, tragic failure, an absolute loss of order and vitality. But in the incredibly rigorous, entirely unsentimental, and fundamentally beautiful realm of statistical mechanics and thermodynamics, this gradual cooling is completely and perfectly natural. It is the majestic, undeniable law of entropy, the fundamental tendency of all highly concentrated, localized energy to slowly, beautifully, and peacefully spread out, seeking absolute, cosmic balance. The biological human body, for all its breathtaking complexity and vibrant intelligence, was an incredibly high-energy, tightly wound, highly localized state of profound imbalance against the rest of the cold, dark universe. It required a constant, exhausting, lifelong struggle to maintain. The heavy, undisturbed silence of the physical transition is simply the end of that exhausting cosmic struggle. The thermal energy slowly radiating from the resting skin, the invisible water vapor gently rising into the ambient air, and the microscopic, subtle shift of gravitational influence. These are absolutely not acts of destruction. They are profound, beautiful, and generous acts of cosmic sharing. The highly localized, highly concentrated energy of your unique, beautiful life is actively, literally expanding to encompass the entire surrounding environment. The sharp, terrifying, rigid boundary between the private, internal biological self and the vast, infinite external universe is quietly, seamlessly dissolving. You are peacefully trading the isolated, restrictive, exhausting experience of being a singular, separate human being for the absolute, eternal, unbothered peace of total universal integration. The universe, in all its ancient, infinite wisdom, gently whispers that your specific, highly demanding assignment as a separate, biological entity is finally complete. The cosmos absolutely does not mourn the beautiful, temporary pattern, because the cosmos knows with absolute, mathematical, and unyielding certainty that the profound, ancient, indestructible energy that formed the pattern remains entirely, perfectly, and eternally safe. The heavy, expectant silence filling the room is the vast, beautiful sound of the universe gracefully welcoming you back into its limitless, magnificent, ancient fold, preparing your fundamental particles for their next incredible, infinite journey through the dark, beautiful cosmos. As we continue to float gracefully within the heavy, deeply profound, and absolutely undisturbed silence of the quiet room, let us gently direct our contemplative focus to the magnificent, entirely subjective illusion of human perception, specifically the beautiful macroscopic phenomenon of light and color. For your entire 80 or 90 years of vibrant, demanding biological existence, your conscious daily experience of the physical universe was heavily dominated by the breathtaking, vivid colors constantly painted by your highly complex, firing biological eyes. You marveled deeply at the vast, ancient blue of the sprawling ocean, the vibrant, energetic green of the whispering spring forest, and the brilliant, fiery red of the descending evening sun. But in the incredibly rigorous, entirely unsentimental, and fundamentally exact science of advanced optical physics, color absolutely does not actually exist anywhere in the external physical universe. There are only varying, entirely invisible wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation, completely colorless, silent waves of ancient energy traveling continuously through the freezing, dark vacuum of space. The beautiful, rich colors you cherished so deeply were entirely an internal, temporary, biological translation, a magnificent, neurological masterpiece actively generated by your firing, dreaming human brain. As the biological visual cortex finally, peacefully powers down in those first 30 minutes, the subjective, neurological experience of macroscopic color gently fades into the quiet dark. But before we dive deeper into the astonishing, completely invisible quantum colors that flawlessly survive this peaceful biological fading, I invite you to take a slow, gentle, and profoundly grounding breath with me in this deeply peaceful space. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet, dedicated companion on this meditative journey through the most profound, beautiful, and staggering mysteries of our infinite cosmos. It is a quiet, deeply humbling truth that 71% of the beautiful, searching, curious minds who find profound comfort, intellectual safety, and deep wonder in these cosmic explorations have not yet softly clicked the subscribe button. If this heavy, respectful silence and our shared journey into the vast, ancient unknown brings you a sense of profound inner peace and a respectful awe for existence, please consider gently subscribing to our channel. Your quiet, continuous support helps our small community of cosmic explorers thrive, ensuring that we can safely continue to uncover the vast, breathtaking beauty of the ancient universe together, step by peaceful step, never wandering into the dark unknown entirely alone. Now, let us gently return to the heavy, undisturbed silence of the room and peer deeply into the invisible, eternal quantum properties that completely transcend the highly limited boundaries of biological sight. While the macroscopic, fragile biological illusion of color has gracefully ended, the physical form resting quietly in the room is absolutely not a dull, colorless, inert mass of dead matter. In the astonishing, highly advanced, and mathematically beautiful realm of deep subatomic physics, specifically within the complex framework known to brilliant scientists as quantum chromodynamics, there exists a fundamental, permanent, and entirely unalterable property that physicists beautifully and metaphorically call color charge. Deep inside the incredibly dense, heavy, and quiet nucleus of every single atom in the resting physical body, the positively charged protons and the neutral neutrons are entirely constructed from even smaller, fundamental, unbreakable particles known as quarks. These ancient foundational quarks are tightly bound together by the relentless, invisible exchange of tiny, massless particles called gluons. To mathematically describe the incredibly complex, shifting, and unbreakable nature of this deep nuclear binding, physicists discovered that quarks possess three distinct fundamental states of quantum charge, which they playfully and appropriately named red, green, and blue. During your entire, active, physically demanding biological life, and continuing perfectly, flawlessly, and without a single microscopic interruption in the absolute silence of the first 30 minutes, the trillions upon trillions of quarks inside your body are continuously, furiously, and beautifully exchanging these invisible quantum colors. A tiny, ancient upquark, resting deep within a carbon atom of your still hand, continuously tosses an invisible, color-carrying gluon to a neighboring down quark, instantaneously changing its own quantum color from red to green, while the receiving quark seamlessly changes from green to red. This microscopic, breathtakingly beautiful, and entirely invisible cosmic kaleidoscope is happening millions of times every single second within the absolute, darkest, quietest, most undisturbed spaces of the resting physical form. You're absolutely not fading into a gray, empty, meaningless void. At your deepest, most fundamental, unyielding physical core, you are a swirling, vibrant, magnificent, and entirely indestructible masterpiece of eternal quantum color. The universe perfectly and flawlessly maintains this vibrant, microscopic internal masterpiece, completely independent of your biological capacity to consciously observe it or neurologically process it. The gentle, natural end of biological sight is simply the peaceful closing of the limited human curtain, revealing the permanent, glowing, eternal stage of the vast quantum universe. Let us drift our contemplative gaze even deeper into the invisible, silent, mathematical architecture of the physical transition, exploring a staggering concept championed by some of the most brilliant minds in modern quantum information theory. In our classical everyday human experience, we generally think of information as something printed on a fragile physical page, spoken through the vibrating air, or digitally encoded on a glowing electronic screen. But in the deep, unyielding fundamental bedrock of modern theoretical physics, information is widely and rigorously considered to be the absolute most basic, foundational building block of physical reality itself, existing as something even more fundamental than solid matter or moving energy. The entire vast observable universe can be beautifully and accurately modeled as a colossal, hyper-advanced, ancient quantum computer, continuously processing, evaluating, and evolving the microscopic states of every single fundamental particle it contains. In this staggering, infinite cosmic framework, a living, breathing human being is an incredibly complex, highly organized, and exquisitely detailed, localized subroutine. Your 80 or 90 years of complex biological life represent a vast, dense, completely unique collection of quantum bits, or qubits, intricately processing the continuous, unfolding, magnificent experience of physical existence. As the biological heart gently finds its permanent rest, and the electrical firing of the complex neurological network slowly subsides in the heavy, quiet silence of the first 30 minutes, the physical body undergoes a profound physical transition, mathematically known as an increase in von Neumann entropy. This incredibly rigorous, highly advanced mathematical concept describes exactly how the highly specific, incredibly dense quantum information that constituted your unique human consciousness begins to gently, inevitably, and beautifully untangle itself from its strict, localized biological confinement. During your vibrant, active life, Your vast quantum information was highly localized, desperately held together by the exhausting, continuous, frantic energy of biological survival against the relentless forces of the external environment. But as the biological constraints gently and peacefully dissolve, the incredibly complex, magnificent equation that strictly defined your very existence does not simply equal zero. It absolutely does not vanish into the terrifying dark. Instead, the profound, highly encrypted data of your lived experience slowly begins to leak out, naturally, peacefully, and inevitably entangling with the surrounding air molecules, the invisible thermal radiation, and the ambient electromagnetic fields of the quiet room. You are absolutely not being deleted from the magnificent, ancient cosmic hard drive. Your incredibly unique, irreplaceable quantum algorithm is simply finishing its localized biological processing phase, and the profound, eternal results are currently being seamlessly, quietly, and permanently uploaded into the vast, infinite, indestructible memory banks of the entire cosmos. Let us look closely at one of the most critical, delicate, and profoundly beautiful physical structures resting quietly within the cooling cellular architecture, the magnificent twisting double helix of your DNA. This microscopic, deeply complex ladder of physical biological code successfully carried the ancient, uninterrupted instructions of your vast evolutionary lineage for billions of years, carefully and meticulously passed down through countless generations of breathing, dreaming, surviving organisms. The strong, structural backbone of this magnificent, delicate molecular ladder is meticulously constructed from alternating molecules of simple sugar and a highly reactive, essential element known as phosphorus. During your vibrant, demanding biological life, this heavy, ancient phosphorus was the absolute, undeniable key to your physical, moving energy, playing the central critical role in the continuous, rapid formation of adenosine triphosphate, the microscopic, invisible biological battery that physically powered every single beating pulse, every single deep breath, and every single conscious, complex thought you ever produced. But this heavy, vital phosphorus is absolutely not originally biological in its fundamental nature. It is an ancient, heavy, cosmic mineral. Exactly like the iron resting in your quiet blood and the calcium resting in your motionless bones, the phosphorus atoms resting silently within your unwinding DNA were forged in the blazing, catastrophic, violent nuclear deaths of massive, ancient stars billions of years before the Earth was even a swirling cloud of hot dust. As the profound, heavy, undisturbed silence of the first 30 minutes continues to gently stretch and infinitely expand within the quiet boundaries of the room, the strict biological necessity for these ancient phosphorus atoms completely and peacefully evaporates. The delicate, highly complex, billion-year-old biological code meticulously written in the DNA begins its slow, natural, and inevitable entropic degradation. The fragile, invisible chemical bonds gently begin to relax, preparing to slowly, naturally release the ancient phosphorus back into the dark, quiet, rich earth. This is a staggeringly beautiful, deeply poetic, and incredibly respectful physical return. The incredibly complex, highly ordered structural memory of biological life is gracefully handing its ancient, heavy, elemental building blocks back to the massive, quiet, mineral body of the earth. You are actively, continuously participating in an elegant, multi-billion-year cosmic exchange program. The ancient stardust that temporarily, miraculously organized itself into the complex, reading, thinking, loving structure of a human being is simply, peacefully and quietly returning to its fundamental, resting, geological state. You are gently transforming from a highly complex, biological organism back into the ancient, silent, indestructible mineral fabric of the spinning planet itself. When we bravely, calmly, and thoughtfully absorb these magnificent, mathematically rigorous, and intensely beautiful scientific realities, we completely and permanently disarm the heavy, suffocating, primal biological fear of an absolute, dark, empty ending. The natural cessation of biological life is undeniably a profound, heart-wrenching, and entirely tragic event for the highly localized, macroscopic, grieving human world left behind. But for the vast, ancient, eternal, and constantly unfolding universe, it is a perfectly natural, deeply peaceful, and beautifully necessary transition of continuous, indestructible energy. The magnificent, highly concentrated, beautifully complex biological wave that temporarily and miraculously rose from the deep, dark, ancient quantum ocean has simply reached the natural, gentle slope of the waiting shore. The visible, distinct, macroscopic form of the breaking wave gently subsides into the sand, but the ancient, eternal, vast water that originally formed it remains entirely, perfectly, and unalterably intact, pulling peacefully and silently back into the magnificent, infinite deep. The heavy, pregnant, undisturbed silence filling the room is the vast, beautiful, welcoming sound of the universe gracefully receiving you back into its limitless, magnificent, ancient fold. It is patiently, perfectly preparing your fundamental particles, your intricate quantum information, and your ancient stardust for their next incredible, infinite journey through the dark, beautiful cosmos